Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like it.
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like
it. Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you, Miller and Moulton, on this Tuesday, the 8th of September? We're a little more than 48 hours away from the start of the National Football League. Hope you had a great Labor Day weekend, able to, enjoy it to some degree. Top of the morning to you, Mark. How the heck are you?
I'm doing terrific. Little light asleep because I really enjoyed Labor Day weekend. And when that happens, after 2 days of imbibing a little bit too much, well, when you don't, it's really difficult to fall asleep.
This is it now. This is it. Your preseason's over. This is it. Next day's off Thanksgiving. Come on now.
Oh, hey, despite that, David, I'm wide awake. I am ready to go. Jumped out of bed. I was like, it's about 4:30. I said, I'm up. Let's get ready for this sucker. It's football season. David, I spent a good 30 minutes yesterday just staring at my phone, looking at opening lines of NFL games with just a gleeful smile on my face, feeling as if we've accomplished more in the past few days than we've ever accomplished, which nothing could be further from the truth. But yet the fact that football is being played feels like such a victory in so many different ways. I can't even find the exact words to put that into place. But David, even BYU beating the ever-living you-know-what out of Navy last night was enjoyable because it was football.
I agree with you. Okay, while I hate to see our service academies take one on the chin, all right, and maybe the governor of Maryland knew what was coming, and that's why he banned everyone from being there, including the cadets and their family, which I think is a mistake, by the way. But enough of that. But yes, Mark, just seeing helmets and shoulder pads. Okay, even if one set of helmets and shoulder pads were running right through like a hot knife through butter the other team, that's okay. That's okay. Not every game can be close, but at least they're being played.
And games not being close was a pretty solid theme for most of last night, unless you wanted to stay up really late, because there was not a close going on yesterday. I mean, it would have taken a modern miracle for DJ to lose that thing. The Celtics, I think, just scored again, followed by the Lightning just scoring again.
Yes, well, definitely the Lightning. Definitely the Lightning. But you're right. It was a good sports weekend, albeit yesterday not the most competitive of days. Dustin Johnson, Mark, in the last 4 weeks,
yes,
has made $18.7 million. Now, I've got to admit, this whole cash grab that is the FedEx Cup playoffs and the Tour Championship, I mean, it's so much money. It's so much money that I think Warren Buffett blushes at how much money they give away at the end of the year. I think they divvy up like $60 million amongst like the top 46 players in the world, something ridiculous like that. But DJ got $15 million for winning the Tour Championship. And they say, hey, it's a season-long thing. It's a season-long thing. So, here you go. $15 million for first when you win the Tour Championship.
He only gets 14 now. $1 million automatically goes into his retirement fund. That's the way this thing works. So don't think it was all blanks and giggles for DJ. He only got the 15 yesterday.
His brother's the caddy, and when one of the reporters went up to him afterwards and said, the winner usually gets 10%, and he said, I know. We'll see if Bro comes through here.
But the cash grab part of it's funny because Shoffley doesn't make birdie on 18. It only cost him like $1 million for finishing tied for second as opposed to second alone. I mean, just $1 million there on the line on the last hole.
Yeah, he had like
to finish second.
He had an 8-footer, and it was either Hicks or Azinger who said, "This is a $500,000 putt right here." No big deal or anything. But DJ with 2 firsts, 2 seconds in his last 4 tournaments. And think about the 2 seconds. He led going into the final round of the PGA, shot 68, only to have Morikawa pass him with the 64, and then he lost in a playoff to Rahm. I mean, this is the same guy who at Jack's tournament shot back-to-back 80s. That wasn't that long ago. It just shows you golf, it's a funny game.
It certainly is. And while I love watching golf, I will say this, and I think we were opening, this is the dumbest tournament in the history of tournaments.
You don't like the format?
I don't like when someone starts a tournament at 10 under par or whatever the hell it is. I mean,
well, hold on.
I get their reasons behind it. I understand their reasons behind it, David. It makes total sense if you're having a playoff the way they are. But it doesn't make sense as someone who likes to watch a golf tournament. That's all. I'm fine with it, but I find myself watching very little of the Tour Championship because of the format and how it's set up. Beautiful golf course. I like to see some of the shots because it looks like would be a spectacular place to play. But I don't have a lot of interest in a tournament where half the field starting at a number and the other half starting basically at scratch. I get it. Again, I understand their reasoning.
For those that don't know, top 30 make the Tour Championship. And since it is a season-long process, they decided a couple years ago to give the golfer who's in first, to give them a lead. And so they decided 10 under's the number. And the golfer who's in second, they posted 8 under to start the tournament. Golfer who's in third at 7 under. And then they basically clump a bunch of guys at 5, and they work their way down. And those that are, I think, 26 through 30 start off at even par. Those that are like 21 through 25 start off at 1 under. And in Shoffley's case, Xander Schauffele, who finished tied for second with Justin Thomas, Schauffele actually had the lowest score over 4 rounds. He beat DJ by 2. Over 4 rounds. Now, would DJ have played differently if he actually had to chase Schauffele instead of protect a lead? But you know what we're getting at here. But I actually, Mark, first off, it's a cash grab.
Right.
I mean, we've always said we were far more interested in Q School than we were the Tour Championship. You and I thought golfers playing for their livelihood is far more interesting than a bunch of guys who are very successful. I mean, the amount of money don't you have to probably $2 million minimum to make the top 30?
Oh, I would think it's at least that.
So, these guys obviously have had a hell of a year as it is if you make the top 30 of the Tour Championship. And so, them divvy up a whole bunch of money amongst themselves, whatever. All right, but we loved Q School. I mean, when a guy's got a par in to keep his card, or a guy's got a birdie 18 to get his card. I mean, I don't know what's more compelling. As Lee Trevino once said, pressure isn't a 15-footer to win a golf tournament. Pressure is a $10 putt when you have $5 in your wallet. That's pressure.
For the record, Adam Scott finished 30th on tour this year. He made $2.27 million. Had to look that up quickly. And I get it. And the PGA Tour has changed drastically in the course of the last decade. Not just the Tour Championship, but their AAA Tour. They took Q School out. Q School doesn't really exist anymore.
No.
It exists to go to the web. It exists to go to the Latin or the Canadian tours. And they want to promote from within. And I understand that. So they have set this up in a way to promote players. And I'm all for that. We've often talked George McNeil, who won Q School way back when.
Yeah.
George be the first one to tell you he didn't know if he could get on tour, being the same age he won Q School, having to go through the web and make it to the tour. George would be the first one to tell you, I don't know if I could have done that. Setup's completely different. And go try to win on the web.com tour or the Corn Ferry tour now. I'm sorry. But I mean, you better go shoot 62 4 days in a row.
Yeah. When Monday qualifying 64 doesn't get you in.
So it is fascinating, but you and I both liked Q School, and we used to love at the end of the season was not the Tour Championship. It was the Disney tournament.
Right.
And it was guys fighting to stay in the top 125.
Right.
That's how you kept your card.
Yep.
And some guy having to make 3 pars on the way in to keep his job was far more compelling to David and I but we're different. We're weird. We are nooks and crannies type of guys when it comes to sports, and the masses would rather watch DJ and Rory and Rahm. They just would.
Although we always believed if they televised it properly, we thought it would be. How could it not be more compelling than this guy's 6-footer is to keep his tour card? I honestly, I mean, I understand you could have a 6-footer to win the Masters. I get it. But in terms of just a regular tour event, DJ with a putt on 18 to win the Tour Championship, or a guy with a 6-footer to keep his livelihood. But, oh well. Anyway. But DJ on a roll, and he'll take a few days off. He'll head to Wingfoot for the first time. He literally has never played the course before. He's got a practice round scheduled on Thursday.
Playing Thursday at Wingfoot with his brother as a caddy and grabbing a local caddy to try to learn the greens in a day. Now, my inclination would be to not put any money anywhere near DJ for the U.S. Open, because this is considered arguably the greatest test of golf in the world. There are many that think that this is the perfect location to hold a golf tournament, but there are not many better courses made anywhere.
It's the old adage that Greg Norman was asked a few years ago about, name a golf course in which you could show up any day and basically play the U.S. Open. And he said, well, you could do it at Shinnecock. He said, you could do it at Wingfoot. And he said, and Oakmont. He goes, there are certain courses in which you literally could just show up and go, and literally conditions as is. And you're like, you know what? We could play it. We could. Let's start tomorrow. We'll play the Open. And Wingfoot, one of those courses, I'm fascinated also. Now we're getting to the time of year. Will courses play differently? We're 3 months past when we normally have the U.S. Open. We're not quite in fall, but we're actually right on the verge. Okay, will Wingfoot play any differently in mid-September as opposed to mid-June? Number one. The other thing, Mark, is I'm wondering from a television standpoint, without crowds, will you see even more of the contours of the course?
I think the course could be a hell of a lot harder. What do fans at golf courses do? Mat down rough. And a place like Wing, and keep the ball in play. The ball
right.
hits the spectator and stops. Now,
right.
the suckers, when it's loose, it's just going to keep on running into that tall grass. So I'm fascinated for all of those reasons that you just mentioned. And it is late summer. The winds could be drastically different in the afternoons. It could blow like a son of a gun. Thank goodness they don't have this tournament in Denver this week where it might snow.
My best friend lives in Denver. I talked to him yesterday. He goes, yeah, it was 100 on Sunday.
Uh-huh.
It's 92 today. And overnight, we're going to get snow for a day and a half. Like,
It's 40 degrees there right now.
It seems a little radical. I don't know about you.
Very 2020, David. Very 2020.
Boy, does it ever. Does it ever. But 479-5551, that's how you can chime into the show always via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 239-479-5551.
I don't know how much BYU Navy you watched last night because you and I are both hockey guys. So my guess is you had more Lightning on than you did BYU Navy.
Although CBS's first game in 12 days is BYU at Army. So I watched a little bit.
Okay.
I did.
Did you happen to be watching, I believe it was second quarter, when they had a guest on the line?
I wasn't watching until I saw a note on Twitter
that told you a guest was on the line.
They have a phoner.
Yeah, they have a phoner. We do phoners on this show. That's how we get guests. We have great guests. We always have great guests.
Right.
But last night during BYU Navy, their phoner was with Bill Belichick.
Correct.
Who proceeded over the course of 5 or 6 minutes to give you one of the most fascinating histories of Navy football that you would ever get from any human being ever.
Right. Couldn't get him to shut up.
Ever.
Touchdowns being scored. Reese Davis, you can't call it. Belichick's on a roll.
And Reese, this is the second time I've watched big-time coach. You want to stick around through a break? It's like, really? Really? Bill wants to sit there for 4 minutes and listen to commercials?
Well,
are you out of your mind?
As somebody pointed out on Twitter, could anything be more 2020? Bill Belichick's calling in to a football broadcast on game week, and they can't get him to shut up.
And it was riveting and great. It was Antoine Staley, who comes on the show often. I think Antoine tweeted something to the effect of, I did not know I needed Bill Belichick to give me a history of the naval football program, but I'm really glad that he did.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that we have this characterization of Belichick that he has done himself.
Oh, yeah.
He has created this whole persona.
Right.
And then here we are, Brady leaves, goes on Stern, and does a 3-hour tell-all, for crying out loud. I mean, we got information on a Brady that we never thought we'd get in a million years from Howard Stern. And then you find out a couple months later that Belichick is at a Subway doing a commercial.
Right. Yep. This is after Bill Belichick got nominated for an Emmy for his commentary on the NFL's all-time top 100 team. I mean, he nearly won an Emmy. The guy who won't talk to the media, the guy whose, most famous quote in 20 years as head coach of the Patriots is, "We're on to Cincinnati," all right, was nominated for an Emmy for broadcasting.
And apparently, when it's not about the New England Patriots
or Bill Belichick,
Bill Belichick might be the most interesting man in the world, as long as he's talking about football history.
Right. If he's talking about anything other than himself and his team.
Yes. Then it's terrible.
And his dad, of course, spent, many a year with the Navy, and Bill grew up around it, and he has great love, all right, for the academy. And it showed.
Yes, it did.
And it was compelling. And I got to admit, at that point, Navy's getting goat rodeoed.
Right. I think we're at like 28 spit or 20 spit at that point.
Like that, right. And so at that point, I know Reese wanted to jump in and at least call the touchdown. But you know what? We can see it.
And Reese, I think, got it, though. I think Reese even realized, I've got Bill Belichick talking.
Right.
We're just going to let this go for a little bit, because I don't know if this will ever happen again.
Yeah. I mean, this is when he's hitting the cough button and talking to the truck and go, "Hey, this is not when you do weather and traffic. All right. Just so you know, we got to bump this." Okay.
No replays right now. Just let
Just let him go. Just make sure you keep voice of Bill Belichick and the little graphic. Just make sure you keep that up.
You've got a Subway logo in the corner. I don't care.
Yeah, whatever. Right. Honestly,
sure we know that Belichick's that.
The final question, Bill. By the way, when you were filming the Subway commercial, ultimately, what'd you go home with?
One thing I want to get off my chest right now, and that is, you are no longer, as a listener of this show, ever allowed to call David Moulton mush. That title is right over here, baby.
Whoa!
Because I told everybody in the world who to bet on the Kentucky Oaks because I like to name. I was told how dumb that bet was, and then I proceeded to play golf, had an emergency 9 and won too many Miller Lights, and didn't even remember that there was a Kentucky Oaks race. So, of course, I didn't bet my hunch that was going off at 40, 45 to 1, and a simple 10 across the board would have given me $600-700. So I would really appreciate it when we make our picks on Friday and Lee Sterling's back on the show that you fade Miller, not Moulton.
Hey, it's 2020. Strange things are happening.
I will tell you, the whole college football world was mush last night because I couldn't find anybody before the game out there telling you to take BYU.
Well, you know why they were influenced? They were influenced by Army. All right. Early in the season, running teams have done really well. And so, in fact, I saw on Sunday a Vegas guy say, hey, maybe in this coronavirus year, what we should do early in the season is just load up on teams that really run the football well. Because that's very simple. And, they line up and run the ball down your throat. Maybe by week 3 of whatever, everything else will start to come together. And when they saw Army do that to Middle Tennessee State, it was like, well, that's it. Now my theory is, born true.
And then by the second quarter, most everybody in college football is talking about whether or not BYU can run the table.
Right. Whether or not if BYU goes undefeated, do they get the 4 spot in the college football playoff? AAC, you've got competition in the form of BYU.
I'll tell you, the line of the night on Twitter, however, was from someone who said something to the effect of, this is going to lead to a 10-1 Notre Dame team saying, yeah, but BYU didn't play in a conference championship game.
That was the line of the day on Twitter. Yeah. Hey,
one to me.
Hey, come on, BYU. You're not even in a conference. They should do that with a straight face. I'm
watching Forsland promo Duke Notre Dame on NBC Saturday.
Right. I mean, Notre Dame should actually send that out as a tweet with a little emoji on it. Have a sense of humor, boys. Have a sense of humor. And as Memphis Tom wants to know in our Twitch chat room, when's the last time Navy got smashed like this? My guess is you got to check a Notre Dame result. And, we watched them get smashed in Ireland in 2012. That Notre Dame team ended up playing for the national title. But it's been a while. I think it was the biggest halftime deficit that Navy had under Ken Natamalo there.
2 years ago, Cincinnati, 42 spit. That was a 3-10 Navy team. They weren't very good.
55-3. This smashing was even bigger. A virtual pick'em game, by the way. Also, just to let you know, it was a virtual pick'em. It was like BYU -1 or 1.5.
And I think it started out with Navy being a slight favorite, and the line moved a couple 3 points, but it stayed, like you said, between 2 and 1 the other way over the course of the weekend.
Right. BYU by 7 touchdowns. Miller and Moulton. Starting 5 is coming up. Pat Kerwin in a couple hours. Pat beginning his twice-a-week forays onto Miller and Moulton. Are we starting the bonus hour today?
That's what we've been saying. I don't know how long we can tease this without doing it.
All right. Bonus hour, exclusive to twitch.tv. It's another reason to sign up. My mother was asking about it last night.
The bonus hour?
Yes.
Is she going to join us for any of the bonus hours?
Well, she's going to listen and watch.
No.
I
can invite her. She's got to give me an email.
You do not. No, you do not want that. You do not want to give my mother.
Really?
Yes.
In the bonus Twitch hour?
You do
exactly what I want to do.
No, you do not want to give my mother a very opinionated person. This is coming from me saying a very opinionated person. You do not want to give her an open talk forum. For the record, my mother is the type of person that when she, I brought her around Vern and Gary and a few others on like one occasion, and she just hits the ground running. Things over the years she's thought about, and she just, very nice to meet you. Okay, by the way, boom, just starts going.
So
things on her mind.
One thing that you've said that's made me think that I don't want her on at least once a week, maybe twice.
And hey,
those we do with the Wednesday bonus show, Mom Moulton on Wednesdays. She can take my spot. I can get to the tea time quicker.
Those in the Twitch chat room, you're not helping. Okay, yes, we want Mom. No, no Mom.
Well,
not happening.
After the show says yes, and the audience is on my side, Mom, I'm just letting you know.
No, No, the closest we get to Mama Moulton's is the little Italian dish she used to throw together, and we'd eat leftovers for a few days. That she called it Mama Moulton's. That's it. That's the closest we get on this show. Miller and Moulton, the starting five is next. Thanks so much for being with us. Hope you had a good holiday weekend, and thanks for starting your work week off with us here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
You can't watch baseball while driving. Mowing, running, walking, fishing, golfing, or while doing anything else you like to do while on the go. And this year, you can't even watch baseball at a ballpark, but you can see the game on the radio.
Where stance so still at the plate.
When the Marlins play,
Now the pitch.
get the play-by-play.
How what a play!
On Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, home for Miami Marlins baseball.
Whether you stop by a locally owned Napa Auto Parts, Napa Auto Care, or visit Napa online, if you need help with your ride, you can count on Napa Know-How.
Gotta go to Cali. Free Labor Day clearance event going on now at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Lowest prices ever on over 1,500 U.S.
I had to put together this. I completely forgot to redesign the studio today with the Derby stuff up. I had to rip it down quickly. I apologize.
$299 per month. That's right. Loaded luxurious Grand Cherokee Limited or award-winning Ram trucks.
Got some work to do today.
$299 per month. Plus,
I had nothing in the tank yesterday. Nothing.
You can drive payment-free for 3 months, interest-free for 6 years, and worry-free up to 100,000 miles. And our parts service and body shop are open to serve you. Free Labor Day clearance event featuring Ram Bighorn Crew Cabs and Grand Cherokee Limited for $299 per month at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com. 42 monthly, 16,000 miles per year, $42.94 to assigning plus tax, title, 0 security deposit, $13.88 per month without bar for 17 months, 0% APR with 0 down with under approval. Offers don't combine.
Are you ready to take your game and athletic training to the next level? Looking to improve your posture, endurance, conditioning, and mental training for tennis or any sport? Reach your star potential at Academia
Triple M.
Florida and Naples, operated by tennis superstar.
So I went to a Labor Day party on Sunday in Bonita and met a guy by the name of Justin, who's a big fan of the show. Lifer Venetian that thinks that the made-up closed business is maybe the greatest thing that we've ever done. When we sponsor the segments,
Yes.
he's like, I've just laughed, and he was, it's great. So then, because he was talking about, you got to be old school, but the 7-Eleven on the corner of Bonita Beach Road, or Old 41 and Terry, that 7-Eleven, there used to be the Dome. And it was a bar, and it was a pretty rough place. And I've heard stories of kids getting out of school and walking into the Dome, and they'd serve a beer at like 15.
Listen to the Dan Patrick Show at work. Streaming 24/7 at FoxSportsFM.com.
For over 20 years, the Good Feet store has been helping people with foot pain get back to doing what they love without their feet getting in the way. Call 552-FEET or visit us at the Good Feet store in Naples or our newest location in Fort Myers.
People often ask me, how did you grow my shower door so big and so fast? But the answer is we didn't. What we did, took our family business, hired great talent, trained our staff, and developed our product. Now, after 17 years, My Shower Door has 8 frameless shower door showrooms, with our newest in Cape Coral. If you're looking for a frameless shower door company that you can trust and research, and you want to see more, go to myshowerdor.com.
Let's face it.
The documentary
New routines, the constant
about Action Park.
trying to keep you and your family safe all the time.
This is Seth on his. Seth, this is what he was tweeting about yesterday. He's very excited about some. Is the place still open, Seth?
To a guy's mood, then testosterone. The single greatest issue.
Oh, yeah.
With low T is mood.
No, I have not seen the documentary.
For men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood.
Can't imagine it has a
get treated.
incredible. Really?
Mood improvement.
About Action Park?
C4MH.com.
I didn't think Action Park was incredible.
I'm a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home, and that'll put you in a good mood too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one for you right now. Go to C4MH.com. Here we go.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
Wow.
This is is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
"29 minutes before the hour. Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? 2 days away from the Chiefs and the Texans. We are doing this, folks. We are doing this.
Can I ask you a very simple question on those lines?
Sure.
I know like TCU was postponed a week, but right now with the starting line a mere, 2 days away.
Yeah.
How confident are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that the NFL season steamrolls right through?
Well, what's your definition of steamroll?
16 games.
In 17 weeks?
Yeah.
Everybody?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that'll happen.
You think there'll be some postponed games?
Yeah, I because it only takes, look what happened in baseball. It only takes, now, once again, what we don't know is what will the NFL do when there is a positive COVID test. What we saw with baseball is one positive COVID test. One. And it's basically a minimum of 4 games. They just shut that team down. They test everybody twice. They make sure everybody's negative. Then they give it another 24 hours. And then by day 4, day 5, they're ready to play. Because we saw that with Oakland just a little over a week ago, in which one member of the A's organization tested positive. They shut the A's down for 4 games. So it will be interesting. Will football, they have this expanded roster now as 69 guys, basically. And will they just, we had a positive test. Will they take that person out of the equation, move their replacement in and keep on going? Or will they pump the brakes? Now we got to test everybody. We got to test them back-to-back days. Make sure we get back-to-back negative tests. Make sure it was just the one person and they didn't spread it to anybody else. We don't know what football will do. If I had to wager, Mark, put it this way. I don't know if this is a poll question. The Super Bowl is scheduled for, I believe, February 7th. Will the Super Bowl be played on February 7th? Because the NFL has said any one of those Sundays in February, they can hold the game. Tampa's reserved the rooms as a city, the whole deal. So as far as the NFL is concerned, any time in that month. Heck, Mark, we don't even know how many fans are going to be at the game.
They're just trying to get that game in before the Ohio State-Michigan game.
Well played. Touche, young man. Touche. 26 minutes before 7 o'clock. If I had to wager, by the way, I say the Super Bowl gets pushed back a week or 2.
So a Valentine's Day Super Bowl, that'll go over well for a lot of wives in this world.
Well, you know what? I know it won't be 2020 anymore, but it'll be the 2020 season. It's the NFL's
Happy Valentine's Day. Sit on the couch and watch the football with me.
Right, yeah. Honey, why are you getting so bent out of shape? We're going out the night before. Saturday night's let's make it happen night anyway. What are we going to do with the Valentine's Day on Sunday? It's not like we're going out. 25 minutes now before the hour. Time for
the starting 5. Starting 5 today is brought to you by the Dixie Moon Cafe in Bonita Springs. We pay our bills sometimes.
Wow.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Hey, I was an account rep. I lost money when people didn't pay bills. They've been out of business for 10 years. Who am I offending?
Well, also, didn't they have a car go through the place? They were kind of located
driven by their waitress.
Right. I hate when that happens.
Yeah, she drove
really
through the place.
Yeah. I liked it, by the way, for the record.
Great Philly cheese.
Excellent food. Excellent.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, Rays lost, but they still have a comfortable lead in the East. Nats beat them 6-1. Marlins a winner, 5-4 over the Braves in 10 as the Marlins continue their push for a playoff spot. Mark, a team that is in danger of missing the playoffs, the New York Yankees. They gave up 10 in the sixth last night in Buffalo to the Toronto Blue Jays. They lost 12-7. They're 21-20. Right now, they're holding down the 8th and final playoff spot in the American League. A game and a half ahead of Baltimore and 2 ahead of Detroit. The New York Yankees are a grease fire right now, having lost 14 of 19. And there's no sign it's going to get any better either.
No, it's not.
This is remarkable. This team, along with the Dodgers, I mean, it was considered, well, Yankees and Dodgers are playing in the World Series. Was as deep a roster as Brian Cashman had ever put together. They're a mess right now. Twins beat the Tigers 6-2. They were a game back of both the White Sox and Indians. Cleveland beat KC yesterday 5-2. Cubs 5-1 over the Cardinals. Houston, Mark, they're doing a really good job of beating up on the bad teams, but every time they play a good team, they get beat. They got to within 2 games of Oakland and then had to start playing the A's again. Yeah, A's 6-0. Oakland's leads 4.5. In the West. Seattle doubled up Texas. San Francisco doubled up Arizona. The Padres keep on rolling 1-0 over Colorado. Lou Brock passed away over the weekend. The Hall of Famer was 81 years old. Fitting that the Cubs and the Cardinals were playing one another when Lou Brock passed because, well, it was a trade made between those two organizations, one of the worst trades in the history of the Chicago Cubs, and Lou Brock helped lead. Yes, and Lou Brock helped lead the Cardinals to 3 World Series appearances and 2 titles. NBA, Boston jumped all over Toronto, all over them in the first quarter and never let up. 111-89
in scoring. Toronto set an NBA playoff record for points in the first quarter. They had 11.
And lost 111-89. Boston now a game away from eliminating the defending champion Raptors. They lead that series 3-2. Clippers in a good one against the Nuggets held them off late. Kawhi with a big defensive play on Jamal Murray. He blocked a dunk attempt. 113-107 Clips to take a 2-1 series lead there. NHL, Islanders, still punch drunk from their first conference finals appearance since 1993. Had to fly from Toronto to Edmonton. They faced a Tampa Bay team that was rested and ready to go. Braden Point, 2 goals, 3 assists. Nikita Kucherov, 1 goal, 4 assists. 8-2 Lightning over the Islanders to win game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The only team that got whooped worse than the Islanders last night was Navy. BYU beat them 55-3. Some NFL news. Marcus Mariota starts the season on the IR. People not quite sure what the injury is, but apparently late in training camp, he was inaccurate. There are those of us that say that doesn't show that he's injured at all. But Mariota will at least miss the first 3 weeks of the season. Nathan Peterman and Deshaun Kaiser are now the backups with the Raiders. But Mariota starts the season on IR, as does Patriots running back Damian Harris because of a hand injury. Remember, Pats and Dolphins Sunday in Foxborough, the Cam Newton era beginning this Sunday against the Finns. Miami made it official yesterday. Ryan Fitzpatrick is their starting quarterback. As we mentioned earlier, Dustin Johnson won the Tour Championship. He won it by 3. It's his 23rd career win. He won $15 million by winning the season-long championship. In his last 4 tournaments, he has 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and he won nearly $19 million in a month. I mean, Warren Buffett says that's a good weekend, but still in a month. The tennis world still getting over the Djokovic default on Sunday.
DJ would have answered that with, there's a buffet?
Stop it. What'd you think of the Djokovic default?
Oh, boy.
You want to sit on that for a while?
I do.
Okay.
Because I don't think we can do this in, a minute or two.
Fine, that's fair. Serena through to the quarterfinals. as she's 3 wins away from her 24th career major. Has not won a major since becoming a mom. Has not won a major in nearly 4 years. No Triple Crown, in case you missed it, and based on the ratings you did. Authentic went wire to wire to beat Tiz the Law by a length.
Two of the owners of that horse are Southwest Floridians, Alva natives that are part owners of that horse.
Well, speaking of Alva, Ross Chastain finished second. All right, in his
Mecca, David.
In his Xfinity Series race. He's still looking for that first win of 2020. They're joking about it now. So many second and third place finishes. Ross is third in the Xfinity Point Series standings. Kevin Harvick, a winner. I mean, it's either Kevin Harvick, Martin.
Kevin Harvick won?
It's either Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, or Martin Truex Jr. By law, they're apparently the only 3 that are allowed to win NASCAR races these days. So Harvick decided he would win the first race of the chase in the Cup Series. And I believe that is
the starting 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Starting 5 brought to you by the Dixie Moon Cafe in Bonita Springs.
Drive-through parking 6 months of the year.
Wow. Little zinger there. Yeah, just got to remember that.
Karen, that was her name. It took me a while to think of the waitress that drove through. It was Karen who drove her car through the front of the restaurant.
Was she the original Karen? Is that what you were saying? No.
Actually, she's the complete opposite of the original Karen.
Gotcha.
I mean, in every single way, shape, or form.
Please.
Gotcha. 17 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton. We'll come up with a poll question on the other side. Pat Kerwin will join us in our 8 o'clock hour as the season kicks off Thursday. Texans and Chiefs. Are we really doing this? Oh, we're doing this on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
Chuck, at halftime of the Rockets and the Thunder, said James Harden one-on-one is the best offensive player he's ever seen. Would I say he's the greatest offensive one-on-one player? No, because Kareem is the greatest offensive weapon the game has ever seen. Nobody could stop this guy.
Dan Patrick.
The Dan Patrick. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida.
Yes.
Sports Radio.
Fans starting 5 graphics. Absolutely.
Every dive is exciting and enjoyable. When I developed cataracts years ago, I couldn't see
Yes.
water.
Yep.
The best-
Although I got to admit, it's been a relatively quiet couple years for me with TSA security at the airports, particularly RSW.
It's great to know.
We had a rough
doctors
stretch
in our
there.
area that
We had a 3-4 year period of time that was really rough.
water.
Hi, this is Dr. Shaw.
Really rough. I came very close
Be a spreader.
to being apprehended one time.
100 million particles fit on the head of a pin. As we
Waiting for a delayed flight.
go fishing and go to work and do the things we need to do, we are spreading the virus. The virus
Had my bag and was sitting on one of those wooden benches at RSW, and there was a mom with 2 children, young children, and her bags had bags, and she couldn't carry them all. And this was, heightened security. Do not leave your bags unattended. And, I put my phone down right there, and I literally walked 30 feet and helped this mom with her bags so she could, get in line and check them. And she was grateful and what have you. And it took 30 seconds. And I came back to my little spot on the bench, and 2 of the Squirrel Patrol showed up on their little scooters there. And they're like, you can't leave your bag unattended. And I went, yeah, I know. But, did you see that mom? She couldn't even make it. It doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, come on now. A little common sense, some humanity. And they weren't They weren't doing any of it. And
Well, usually when you tell them a little common sense and a little humanity, people snap out of their bad mood right away. And
right.
What do you say?
Right. And then, in fact, one more came over. So then there were 3 of them. All right. So I sat down on the bench, and they're lecturing me, and I'm not even looking at them. Literally, I'm on my phone and what have you. I mean, I treated them the way I treat Mark during a commercial break. You know, I start zoning in on my phone, pretended as if they didn't exist.
Our Safe and Sound program was developed with data and facts from local, national, and global authorities, healthcare professionals, and industry.
Yeah.
While listening to direct feedback.
It's part of your charm. I don't know what to tell you.
Yep. But I ultimately,
because you were right and you did something nice, and then you were they didn't recognize you're actually trying to do a gracious thing, and that gets any human more pissed off.
Well, quite frankly, it bothered me that one of them didn't help her. I mean, I actually looked at them like, "Are you going to help her?"
Quick question, because I've heard this story a couple times. How long ago was this?
Oh, it was a while. I was explaining that it's been. I've had a good 2-3 year stretch here with the TSA. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This was Act 1,
right?
When you were getting in all the trouble, and this was
right.
Yeah, and another year before,
right?
So it's been at least 4 years, David.
Here's my thing. I did come to the conclusion that I can't afford to get arrested.
No, really?
Yeah. Well, it took a while. All right. But I only came to that conclusion in my 50s, which I said, there's too many places I have to be. I really can't afford.
If you need a plumber, hire a plumber. If you need an electrician, hire an electrician.
Yeah. I'll be back. That's a threat. Nice. The Oasis, Mark.
Oh, yeah. Chris Zio, good friend of mine, bartended there. We were talking about that the other day. I said, what was the bar you worked at? It's the Oasis Lounge. Solid.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. You got to work in the Florida Flame this week, because last week was the Florida Sea Dragons week. So this, beginning tomorrow, we'll have the Florida Flame.
Go to the sports this week.
Wow.
You're live.
12 minutes before the hour, lively discussion during the break there in our Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv chat rooms. Thanks so much for being with us on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We are streaming at millerandmoulton.com. And as we mentioned, we are broadcasting live 3 FMs, 2 AMs, an HD2 channel. And if that's not enough, Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channel. Sign up for them. They are free. And beginning today, you get a bonus hour of Miller and Moulton, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern. A bonus hour. And it'll be on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel, simulcast on the Landry Football Network.
I like that you've worked that Landry Football Network into almost a Cosell-esque delivery.
And the Landry Football Network.
That one you did on purpose, but the last one had a very much Cosell influence to it without you realizing you were doing it, which the cadence was perfect.
Sometimes, Mark, you just need to slow it down. Sometimes verbally, you need to tell yourself time to come to a complete stop. Okay, that's what. Don't roll the stop sign here. Okay, you need to come to a Landry Football Network complete stop.
Just 2 days away from Chiefs and Texans. You did. I don't think you pointed out, and if you did, I missed it because sometimes I zone out when you're going on the starting five. But your National Football League had a couple of things, but Clowney did sign. I don't think we've talked about that.
Right. I didn't touch upon the big news that was late Saturday night into Sunday. The two big contracts. Clowney does 1 year for $12 million, could earn up to 15 with the Titans. He chooses Tennessee over New Orleans.
But there was a lot of talk that New Orleans was a sign and trade. I mean, there were so many rumors floating out about what that was going to be.
Did you see, by the way, how we found out that it was serious between Clowney and the Saints?
Yes, because Clowney's personal chef posted a picture on Instagram
of Clowney and Sean Payton.
Yep.
Right.
What a delight it was to cook for, I guess they wanted to go. The story is what she said, is that they wanted to go out. Clowney said, why don't we just stay here and I'll have my chef cook? And so 2 Saints coaches and Peyton were at Clowney's house having dinner.
Right. Bada bing, bada boom. And then Sean Payton liked the tweet. So there you go.
Right.
So on Saturday night, the thought was, well, he's going to New Orleans. Saints are going to be able to close this deal. And apparently Tennessee threw a little bit more money on the pile. They said, oh, really? That tweet will earn you some money. How about a little something for the effort here? And so Clowney, who, hey, he's a businessman, and he has made no bones about it. Going back to when he was with Houston. No. This is it. This is make money time in his life. Absolutely.
One of the beat writers put up a picture, and she said, one of the most important photos I have, and it had the number of high school athletes, and then of them that will go to college, and then at the bottom, it's that 1.6% of collegians and all that. So, make sure you have your education, because even if you make it, even if you're one of the 160 to get to the league, the odds are you're going to be there for 3 years or less. And Clowney has made no bones about it. He is trying to get as much cash as he can while he's playing.
He is playing for the check. And hey, non-guaranteed contracts, they can cut you on a dime. You know what? Somebody can play the game too. Now, you could argue, has he left money on the table in a couple of instances? If he had signed earlier, I'll bet you Seattle is looking at this and laughing, going, well, we offered him more than that. And we offered him more than 1 year, back in the day, if you will. But, okay.
Well, that's not guaranteed. You
Right.
put him on a dime, and he's wanted the guaranteed money. But that's one. Deshaun Watson, the monster one, gets the big check, gets paid.
It's an extension, though. It's an extension. So remember, the Texans have 2 more years of Deshaun under his rookie contract, and then the 4 for $160 kicks in. So they've got Deshaun for 6 years. What I found most interesting, Mark, is not the money. It's the length of the contract. Dak Prescott had a good weekend. Now, the Cowboys are going to try to argue, well, Dak, see, he's got 2 years left on his rookie deal. He basically now, that's a 6-year thing. We're offering you 5. All right. And Dak's like, yeah, I only want 4. So Deshaun got 4. And I think and Aaron Rodgers got 4. So Dak and his people are kind of like, listen, we're not giving you that 5th year.
Lot riding on this Cowboys year. I mean, you look at that division, at how mediocre I believe it is and how bad it is at the bottom. The Dallas better win Dak better have a good year. You're right. It was a good day for Dak, but let's not make any mistakes here. There aren't 3 people in the football world that think Dak belongs in the same sentence as the Rodgers, Mahomes, and Watsons of the world. So he is playing an incredibly risky game of poker.
In one sense, I believe the Watson extension puts the ceiling in place for Dak. I mean, unless Dak has a great year this year with tremendous playoff success, you could see where the Cowboys look at Dak and go, well, we're not paying you more than Deshaun. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's not going to happen. I mean, he's better than you. And he's had more playoff success than you, quite frankly. So this ain't happening. So you could see where they're coming in between 35 and 40, and it's either 4 years or 5. You would like to think these two sides could get it done. But I'll say it again. This is one of the rare times I support Jerry Jones in this one, because I think in the next year or two, either Rodgers or Stafford becomes available from the NFC North. And I would trade Dak Prescott for either one of those guys yesterday. Yesterday.
And on the other side for the Texans, they get rid of Hopkins, but have signed Tunsil and Watson to long-term deals with big money.
Did you say Laramie Tunsil?
Arguably the MVP for the month of September in 2019.
or as Mark determined, the most important player in the National Football League.
Very true. Very true.
Thought it was important to bring Cosell back because we always use Cosell with Laramie Tunsil.
And it's the perfect name for Cosell.
Yes, it is.
I mean, Laramie Tunsil was born to have Howard Cosell call a game. I don't know what to tell you.
Look at that block by Tunsil. Laramie Tunsil.
We will come up with a poll question. David had a Super Bowl one. I don't mind it. I actually think it's a pretty good question. I also think there's a Dolphins question that we could throw out there if we wanted to, because
I like it.
They did name Fitzpatrick the starter, bringing up the question, when will Tua be starting for the Miami Dolphins? And there are a lot that are really hoping that it's 2021.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I would hope to break the saran wrap at some point in 2020.
Joe Burrow going to be the starter?
Yeah.
Come on. These are the two guys.
I understand. But heck, Cincinnati got rid of Dalton. I mean, Cincinnati doesn't have anybody better than Joe Burrow.
No, they don't. And Fitzpatrick's going to start it out.
Yeah, come on.
That Peter King picked to win the division.
Yeah, well, it's 2020. I mean, a lot's going on, Miller and Moulton.
Couldn't believe that when I saw that.
Okay. Yeah, I know. And apparently, some people...
He ain't the only one.
I know. What the heck?
I mean, look, it wasn't the way that the whole world said bet on Navy last night. But the fact that there are more than 3 people who are picking the Miami Dolphins to win the division is damn near insane.
I mean, come on. You look at the Bills roster, you look at the Dolphins roster. You mean to tell me you would pick the Dolphins objectively? Come on now.
And yes, sometimes I zone out during the starting. But I was pretty sure I paid really good attention today. And I'm like, he didn't bring up Clowney, did he? I'm going through the NFL stories in my head. I'm going, wait a minute. We did Fitzpatrick, but he didn't do Clowney. He just wanted to didn't want to repeat something that he said. And I put the blame on me, not on him. So when I screwed up, it'd be my fault.
Yes, Foot fan, the segue Gestapo. Absolutely.
Speaking of the Gestapo, started watching a documentary. It's old. It's like 7 years old, but it's the untold history of the United States. Oliver Stone produced it. The one I watched yesterday was just on World War II. Fascinating. I mean, a lot of stuff. You're a big history guy. I thought I was. I learned a lot.
The problem with Oliver Stone, and I watched a good many of those.
Okay. Well, yeah,
the problem, because I think they were very well done.
I thought the first one was done look at it was the footage and the things they were showing from Russia and in China and Japan. I mean, it's stuff I'd never seen before. Just the death numbers that he went through over there that were,
The problem for Stone, though, was he took such liberties with the movie JFK that it's like, okay, so now we're supposed to take you seriously, that this is more a documentary and everything in it is true. Because you tried to pawn off JFK as pretty true, and you didn't take many liberties when, in fact, you did.
But like I said, the first one, it was hard to say there was anything false.
No.
All of the footage was from the 30s.
Yep.
I mean, when they're actually giving you Eleanor Roosevelt's speech from the convention, you're going, wow, she's the first wife of the president to ever give one. Okay. I just thought it was an interesting show. I'll watch the next one today. Then I'm going to have a nap.
Oh, look at you. Already planning the midday nap.
Oh, yeah. Ricochet was up a couple weeks ago, Gator Boy, but yep, don't worry. We've all made a bad decision or two there. I might go next door and go to Center Stage at some point this week. Just such a great little music venue. Seth, what time do you geek out and start watching Star Trek all day?
Miller.
Okay.
I gave him a little shot.
You did. You
Just
did.
a
You
little
did.
rubbing
Right.
grace.
And Moulton.
He is the gentleman who's got a few days off, and he entered into the garage, and he has not left. He is rebuilding a tranny. He is mixing and matching.
So
sets of
I could do the Super Bowl or Tua.
come up with just the right 14.
Southwest Florida's Fox
Do
Sports
Tua.
broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote
Got to get their
Studios,
schedule up.
where it's always
I think
cool
bye
and
week's what, week 11?
Yes.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
Yes.
You're live.
Couple minutes past the hour. Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Hope you had a good holiday weekend. We are Miller and Moulton. We are here till Thanksgiving.
Well,
Next
you
day
are.
off. Yeah, that's right. You're taking a week in October, which will
Like
be
6
interesting.
days. Yeah,
'Cause
I'm leaving the country.
I got to figure out then how to get on the air.
I know. I was thinking about that yesterday. I've got to have a whole class with you.
Wow. I don't know if I'm ready.
I
Be honest
I
with
know
you.
as an instructor, I know I'm not.
You may have to get up every morning and send me a link from wherever you're going. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Going to have Wi-Fi, David.
Gonna have to bring a hotspot, Mark.
Yeah,
Gonna
I
have to
don't
bring
think
a
that's gonna
hotspot.
work either. I hate to break it to you, because even with one of those hotspots, you're going to need a tower somewhere. And considering I'm going to be on a boat in the islands, I don't think there's a lot of spots.
Well, whatever. We're broadcasting live on 3 FMs, 2 AMs, and an HD2 channel, streaming on millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. And beginning today, immediately following our regularly scheduled show, we're going to do a bonus Twitch hour. That's right. A bonus Twitch hour from 9 to 10 a.m. on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel and simulcast on the Landry Football Network. We didn't really throw out a poll question last hour. We talked about it, but we didn't do it.
Right. And I have the Dolphins schedule in front of me, because I have no problem using that Super Bowl one day this week as well, because I think that's a solid question. When is the Super Bowl played? The 7th, the 14th, the 21st, the 28th. I mean,
right.
Because right now it's scheduled to be February 7th. The
Yeah.
league, Tampa, has said, hey, as long as it's in February, we're good.
Right.
But
so it's a legit question. Mark brought up the point last hour. Do you think that the NFL is just going to smooth right through this year? And I go, no. I figure at some point we're going to hit a speed bump. And that teams are going to have to take a week off and what have you. And eventually the regular season might get backed up, and therefore the players might get pushed deeper. Playoffs, I should say.
So the Dolphins play the first 2 Sundays, and then they play the Jags on a Thursday.
Yes.
So there are people, and I'm not one of them. If the earliest you thought Tua could play, because they're going to have that extra time after the Jags game before they host Seattle. But there are some that say if they get off to an awful start and were to lose 2 of their first 3, that maybe Tua could start by week 4. I don't buy that at all. I don't know about you, David, but I don't buy that. Their bye week is week 8, right?
Week 11.
Okay, it's in between the 2 Jets games. So literally, you could have Fitzmagic on November 15th, quarterbacking while they host the Jets, and Tua going on the road to play the Jets Thanksgiving weekend.
Correct. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's right there. It's easy. There you go. They're going to have 10 games in the books. They're going to be whatever they're going to be, 3-7, 4-6, and they're going to turn it over. It's Tua time. It's Tua time. Eli sat for 9 games behind Kurt Warner before the Giants, who were 5-4 at the time and very much in the playoff chase, said, yeah, it's Eli time. And he played the final 7 games of the year. You all have your favorite quarterbacks. Some of them got thrown in right away. Some of them had to wait. I mean, Mahomes got a start, final game of the regular season. Deshaun Watson came off the bench at halftime, week 1, and has been starting ever since for Houston. I mean, we can go right on down the list. But at no point in time, it should be pointed out, has Tua, taken a snap with the ones, if you know what I mean. I mean, every practice started, Ryan Fitzpatrick's been with the ones. I mean, the Dolphins kind of laughed yesterday when they're like, you want us to make it official? Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick's our starting quarterback. At no point in time, there hasn't been a moment in a practice in which we ever gave an indication that Ryan wasn't the starter. But yeah, okay, you want to hear it? He's the starter. So there you have it. I mean, the only time Tua had a practice with the ones was when Ryan Fitzpatrick's mom died.
So I have 3 choices, David. Week 4, and I just say after a Thursday game, so people understand why we just randomly threw week 4 out there.
Right.
Week 11 after the bye, or 2021.
Ooh, I think the bye will win.
Do you think? Because I don't think there's another choice you put up there. You don't get a token start at the end of the year, do you?
You could. They could pull a Mahomes.
All right.
They also, heck, they could start them in between that Thursday night and the bye. I mean, but I think that they're going to hold off as long as possible. And the reason I think they're going to hold off is not Tua. It's the offensive line. I still don't know how good it is. In fact, I think if they are average this year, the Dolphins will consider it a tremendous success.
So I added week 17 for you with Mahomes as an answer, or 2021. And you almost forget that Mahomes started that one game because it's really like he sat a whole year. And there are a lot of guys who are pretty damn good playing in the league that sat a year.
Yeah, Rodgers sat 3. Steve McNair sat, 2? I think McNair sat his first 2 full seasons with Houston/Tennessee. Because I think when they drafted him, they were still the Oilers. I think. But 479-5551, 479-5551. That's our poll question. MillerandMoulton.com, that Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter. When does Tua become the starting quarterback for the Dolphins? Early, mid-season, late, or not at all?
And I'm voting not at all.
Look at you. Look at you.
One of the things that you really needed to take away from when they named Fitzpatrick the starter and the 2 was they've also told you that this has nothing, 0, to do with Tua's hip. He is 100% healthy. He's not ready.
Well, to further bolster that point, the Dolphins cut Josh Rosen over the weekend. I have to admit, I was shocked for this reason. He's unbelievably cheap. I mean, a few $100,000 is his salary. They literally, Mark, unless they've signed someone in the last 48 hours, when they let Josh Rosen go on Saturday, they only had 2 quarterbacks on the roster. Now, I would err more on the side of what the Eagles did this weekend. And I don't know how many people saw it. It's what Pat had talked about a couple different times during the offseason here. He would sign a veteran 4th quarterback. And in the Eagles' case, they did. 40-year-old Josh McCown. Remember, came off the bench in the playoff game last year. Did okay after Wentz, got hurt. All right. McCown has not been in camp all year. McCown retired. The Eagles called them up and said, Josh, how about this scenario? You can unretire, stay home. We don't want you coming into the facility at all. Playbook hasn't changed 1 iota. We'll send you it officially in the mail just so you could brush up on it. All right? You stay home. You stay safe. If we have a COVID situation, you're our guy. We're going to call you. We're going to fly you in. You're going to play. All right. Deal? And that's what the Eagles are doing with Josh McCown. Mark, I really thought the Dolphins at the very least would keep Josh Rosen on the roster just in case. I mean, Fitzpatrick could get hurt week 1. I mean, and I understand this is Rosen's first year in Shangeli's system, but he's got 2 years in the league. Tough to argue that the third quarterback you're going to bring in is better than Josh Rosen, in my estimation. I would have kept him around for another year. I think they did him a favor, but I would have kept him.
About 4 seconds to sign him to their practice squad. So now he gets to go learn behind Brady for a year, which I find fascinating in and of itself. But you brought up Philadelphia with the older quarterback. Look, Pittsburgh did the same thing. They cut the one kid over the weekend because they picked up the Jags quarterback on waivers and turned around the next day and signed him to the practice squad. They've got 4.
Yeah, they cut Duck Dynasty there.
But then they re-signed him to the practice squad the next day.
Right. I think they picked up, was it Josh Dobbs?
Yeah.
Who did they pick up? Yeah, to be their third stringer there, and then signed Duck back to the practice squad.
I mean, they've got 4.
Right.
They've got 4.
Mm-hmm. And I don't see how you can't have at least 3 this year. I got to be honest. But the Dolphins originally only had 2. Now, they've had a couple of guys that they brought through camp, but some of those guys I know the Jets have picked up. Because the Jets, as of yesterday, had 5 quarterbacks. 5 quarterbacks on the roster. Adam Gase sure does love his quarterbacks. The Bears love their tight ends. Adam Gase loves his quarterbacks. Speaking of the Bears, they chose Trubisky. Trubisky.
And are trying to fill the narrative that Trubisky did everything right in the offseason, and this is a new guy.
Right.
You didn't pick up his option for the 5th year.
Correct.
You signed Nick Foles.
$21 million contract.
Part of your master plan to get the best out of Mitchell Trubisky.
Right.
Do you think we're all stupid? I mean, that's really my question for you. Do you think we're all dumb?
Mark, this just in. Sometimes ego gets in the way in life, and particularly pro sports, because the general manager of the Bears drafted who? 2nd overall? Right. Didn't draft Christian McCaffrey, who went 8th. All right. Didn't draft Patrick Mahomes, who went 10th. Didn't draft Deshaun Watson, who went 12th. He took Mitchell Trubisky. Hello.
And trying to maintain that he is the smartest guy in the room throughout this ordeal.
And
it'll be fascinating because, David, they play the Lions week 1. And that's a game that neither team can afford to lose.
You got that right.
They are incredibly high expectations for both of these teams, whether rightful or not. You know, Detroit is make the playoffs or everybody gets fired, they've been told. Pretty bad scenario to start the year off for most coaches, because that usually means everybody gets fired.
Well, especially when you went 3-12-1 the year before.
Right.
I mean, it's like, wait, you want us to do what? You do know we picked 3rd in the draft, right?
Speaking of which, Dan Orlovsky did a podcast with Chris Long, and Long asked him the most bizarre thing that happened to him while he was in Detroit. Orlovsky says, "How much time do you got?" Gave 2 doozies. One, and he would not name the offensive coordinator, but he's the 2nd string quarterback. He's the one given the plays. He'd get the play from the OC, and he'd give the play to Stafford from the sideline on the headset. And they're on a drive, and they're waiting for a play call, and he hears snoring from the booth. The offensive coordinator had fallen asleep while the Detroit Lions had the ball. I'm not making this up.
No. I know. I know he said it. But the funny thing is, not while the Lions defense was on the field and that was a long drive. And, listen, I don't know. Maybe it's like when you doze off in your chair, or you're watching TV, or, some of you maybe dozed off for a few seconds at a traffic light one day. I don't know. I've never done it, but I've heard it happens. 13, 15 play drive, the defense is on the field. The first 3 plays you're going to call next time you have the ball. You just kind of, lean on your hand and maybe you just start dozing for a little bit. No, this is on offense.
Right.
The
other one was the quarterback's coach apparently was prepping for an interview while they were installing the game plan on the practice field. Quarterback's coach had a college interview and was essentially studying and prepping for the interview as they were implementing the game plan.
Priorities.
Only in Detroit. So you've got the Bears, who are coming off of a very disappointing season.
Although it was 8-8, they did finish by winning 3 of their last 4, I believe, or 4 of their last 5. But most people think the Bears season was worse than the 1-loss record last year.
Correct. But the year before, they were 12-4.
Yes, they were.
And so it was a huge step back. Are the Bears one of those teams? And I don't think they are, David. But we tend to, last year expectations were very high. They did not fulfill them. Are we sleeping on the Bears right now? Is this the team that's more like the 12-4 team? I don't think so, because I don't think they've made the necessary improvements to stay at that level.
I don't think they've upgraded the running back or offensive line positions. I do feel they've upgraded the defensive line. But the bottom line is, one, Nagy has to do a better job calling plays. They have to run the ball more. The line needs to run the ball more. The quarterback needs them to run the ball more. The defense needs them to run the ball more. Run the damn ball more. That's number one. And number two, it's up to Trubisky or Foles. And to me, it's a bad sign Trubisky's the starter. To me, I thought for sure I would have lost a lot of money on this one, Mark. You make the deal that they made. They agreed to pick up Foles' contract, remember. Foles is counting $21 million against their cap. And they give up a 4th-round pick. And he's not the starter? Really? What does that say about Nick Foles? And they're trying to say, well, it shows about Mitchell Trubisky.
Right.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Now, there are those, and, we've had a few people in our Twitch chat room here who are like, hey, you know what? Foles is better being the number 2, and they can always turn to him. If they didn't start out with Trubisky, they might have lost him, if you know what I mean, from the neck up, that they needed to do this, because once they pull the plug on Trubisky, that's it. It's over. Yeah, okay, maybe that's the psychology behind it. But the fact that Foles is apparently not head and shoulders above Trubisky, that would concern me.
And we have a guest on in an hour who will agree with most of the people in our Twitch chat room, because Pat doesn't think Nick's a starter. He thinks Nick's a relief pitcher. And he has said it many a time on this show. 479-5551, 479-5551. That is the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing Talk and Text line. If you want to chime in on the show, or you can always do it in the Twitch chat room, twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton.
7 home underdogs this week, by the way, in the NFL. Now, I understand that's not what it used to be. And especially since we're not going to have hardly any fans at these games. But for the record, of the 16 games scheduled, I believe we have 7 home dogs and a couple of others that are virtual pick'ems. So do with it what you will. We also have a ton of teams who are starting new quarterbacks opening day this year compared to last year. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, here, New England's starting a new quarterback week 1. Tampa's starting a new quarterback week 1.
Well, Carolina's starting a new quarterback.
Well, Washington's starting a new quarterback because
starting a new
Haskins didn't
quarterback.
start. Carolina's starting a new quarterback. Jacksonville and
Bengals.
Indy are both starting. That's 6. Okay.
Bengals and Chargers
are both starting. That's 8. Arizona. No, did Kyler Murray start week 1 last year?
Yeah.
I believe he did. Okay. The Giants are starting a new quarterback because Eli started the opener last year. That's 9.
and the Broncos.
Well, and Tennessee, because Mariota. We have 11 new starting quarterbacks week 1 this year compared to last year. A third of the league is starting a new quarterback week 1 this year than last. Now, a few just changed teams, and a few like Haskins and Jones were number 1 picks who didn't start week 1 last year, and now it's their team, blah, blah, blah. But still, never mind the new head coaches and the new offensive coordinators. And do you bet and or just pick winners accordingly this year? Like, do you bet continuity, Mark? Are you going to ride that train early in the season? Let's face it, no preseason games. We're kind of going off of last year's spec at the start of this year. So are you going to put a whole lot of stock into continuity week 1?
David, I don't know what to put into week 1. I really don't. I mean, going back to yesterday's game, we found out yesterday, and maybe we knew before, but Navy never bothered to tackle in any of their practices.
And it showed. Right.
So I have no idea, and it is one of the questions I'm going to ask Pat today after all of his extensive camp tours virtually and talking to the team. How similar is everybody's practice from a contact standpoint? How is the preparedness of a team going to vary team by team in this league? Because to your point, David, there are so many new people out there starting, and you look at like Cleveland with a new coach, and then you talk about new coordinators, and there was no preseason games. Oh yeah, by the way, the refs didn't do any preseason games either, so expect 6,000 flags this weekend.
And that concerns me, actually. And when it concerns Mike Pereira, it should concern us.
Right.
He thought the officials needed 1 preseason game more than any of the players. The one game that intrigues me the most from a betting standpoint, last year the Rams finished ahead of the Cowboys. The Rams, if we had 7 teams make the playoffs last year like we now do starting this year, the Rams would have made the playoffs last year in the NFC. They were 9-7. Cowboys went 8-8. Rams are home, for whatever that's worth. And the Rams, obviously, same coach, same offensive coordinator, same quarterback. So the Rams were better last year. The Rams are home. The Rams have more continuity. Dallas is a 3-point favorite in the game. Sunday night. Once again, Mark, certain teams, you go all the way back. When Joe Namath was with the Jets were the most overrated team on the board that Vegas had. And you have to wonder once again, if we're starting week 1, and here are the Cowboys with all that value that's attached to them, when the reality doesn't match the value. But will Mike McCarthy be the difference? 479-5551. That's how you can chime in, call or text in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line 239-479-5551. Should they or shouldn't they? Next on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
I like this segment. I have no idea what it is, but I'm excited.
There you go.
That's a tease.
Boycott NASCAR, and the baseball players kneeled, and they were going to boycott that. It's like, folks, you picked a bad year to boycott.
Well, and Hops, I mean, they could have had Cam, too.
You can gamble on sports.
I mean,
we've had a scarcity of sports.
And I will say this. I hope Cam Newton tears it the F up this year. I really do. Tears it the F up.
These are stressful times. New routine.
I'm a Cam guy.
Bad news. And trying to keep you
more the person than the player, to be honest with you.
Center for Men's Health. During these
Just because he's flashy
so critical and
doesn't mean he's a bad dude.
food than testosterone, the single greatest issue for guys with low T.
Cam, as charitable a guy as there is in the NFL,
Get low
great with kids.
improved mood.
9 years represented that organization.
How much their mood
Face of the organization, class all the way.
Your mood improved.
He dresses a little funny.
C4MH.
Says a few things. Are you serious?
I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years.
Won the MVP.
20 pounds because now I have the energy.
Took him to the playoffs 4 times.
In a good mood too. C4
Cam can play.
Express treatment plan is
Cam's been hurt for a year and a half.
all safe. And with location,
Cam's 31, in the best shape of his life, and motivated.
find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
Are you ready to
I hope he tears it up.
Looking to improve your speed, posture, endurance, conditioning, and mental training for tennis or any sport? Reach your star potential at Academia Sanchez Casal, Florida, and Naples. Operated by
Aren't we rooting for both, Mark? Aren't we rooting for Brady and the Bucks to tear it up and for Cam and the Patriots to tear it up?
Look,
Wouldn't that be great?
I'd like them both to win the division.
Tear it up.
I mean, no offense, and I'm not trying to pick on Buffalo fans, but Buffalo, whatever. The season would be more exciting if New England's winning that division than Buffalo. It just will be.
Is it the second to last game of the year? It's Buffalo at New England. Boy, I would love it if just there it is. Circle that, baby. Comes down to this.
Group or one-on-one sessions, short and long-term programs for beginners through elite professional athletes of any sport. Step up your game and enroll now. Find Stephen Davidi Hydro Athletics on Instagram or visit asc-florida.com.
I'm a busy person.
Catch the show anytime.
I'm with you about Cam
.com and
giving
subscribe.
the ball to kids.
Has the little blue pill let you
I don't know. I've always here's when I became a Cam guy.
Guys, if you're suffering,
If you really think about it, so Cam gets kicked out of Florida.
even if you
Cam has to go to the JUCO.
they've
Now think about that. He had to go the JUCO route.
done surgical treatments for
He didn't get picked up by another Division I. Cam was so damaged image-wise
we know
that he had to go the JUCO route.
weekend is tough. When what you want to hear
He goes and he wins a national championship there.
have helped thousands.
Then he goes to Auburn with 24 fifth-year seniors
we can make one step
and becomes the instant leader of that team. You talk to anybody on that team, they would have walked off a cliff for Cam
Guys, let's get the wow back
and led him to the national championship.
Let's book online at mymensclinic.com or call.
By the way, if you're DeAndre Swift or Kerryon Johnson, how excited are you that the Lions picked up AP?
0125. Again,
Well, you know, and you know what? Hey, listen, the GM and coach are going, boys, I don't want to hear it. Our jobs are on the line. Your jobs are on the line. My jobs are on the line.
Yeah.
And you guys need to stay healthy. No offense. If you guys could stay healthy, we wouldn't be
Swift is brand new. So but yeah, if Kerryon Johnson would have stayed healthy, they wouldn't even be in this spot. They wouldn't have to draft another running back. Oh, no, I'm with you. I'm looking, I mean, they're very Patriot-esque in the running back spot right now.
Yes, they are. I thought it was an interesting place for him to go, considering reportedly there was more than Detroit interested. So,
disinfecting systems, conveniently located touchless hand sanitizers. Plus our
do you know who I think's in need of a running back and needed to pick up either Fournette or AP?
Why did Odell Beckham's value just go up? What happened? Is somebody hurt?
keep you safe and sound. We're ready.
I don't know.
I'm seeing a lot of Odell Beckham stuff this morning, and I'm not sure why.
Okay.
I really need to know.
Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
.29 minutes past the hour. Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. It's merely 3 FMs, 2 AMs, and an HD2 channel. We stream at millerandmoulton.com, and we broadcast live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Sign up for the Twitch channel, live and exclusive. Bonus hour beginning today, 9 to 10 a.m., 8 to 9 Central, 6 to 7 Pacific. On millerandmoulton.com, the Miller and Moulton Twitch channel, and simulcast on the Landry Football Network. Midway through the show, a couple of quick headlines. In baseball, the Yankees lost again They're 21-20. At one point, they were 16-6. Do the math. They've lost 14 of 19. They're a game and a half ahead of the Orioles for the final playoff spot in the American League. Are the Yankees going to make the playoffs? Probably, but my goodness, what a free fall. Baseball world mourning the death over the weekend of Hall of Famer Lou Brock at the age of 81. Boston whooped up on the Raptors. They lead that series 3-2. Clippers beat Denver 113-107. LA leads that series 2-1. Tampa routed the Islanders 8-2 to win game one of their Eastern Conference Finals. And BYU humiliated Navy 55-3, while Dustin Johnson won the Tour Championship.
All right. You had something here. You this segment.
Yeah. Should they or shouldn't they?
That's what I'm talking. Okay. Who? What? When? Let's go.
Should they or shouldn't they have defaulted Novak Djokovic out of the U.S. Open?
All right.
The answer is no flipping way. No way. It's a joke.
I'll tell you what, it's far worse than not signing the scorecard in the proper area, David, if you want to go back a ways. Because A, he did hit the ball in disgust. 2, he did not do it on purpose. To me, it was not malicious. And that was the biggest thing, because they determined that there was like a malicious intent, or that because if you see it, he did it. He's the first one over to her. Not anybody else. He's sprinting over to, basically apologize.
Well, yeah. He was horrified. All right, because it happened to hit the woman in the throat. And for those, if by chance you didn't see or hear about it, Djokovic gets broken in the 11th game of the first set. He's down 5-6. And when you're serving in tennis, you've got 1 or 2 balls in your pocket. He takes a ball out, all right, and he begins to bounce it behind him, because the ball boys and ball girls, and so tennis players do it. They bounce it behind them. It's going to hit off the wall in the back, and they'll chase it down. And so he does not hit it hard at all. I mean, for a professional player, never mind the number 1 ranked player in the world, to take a half a swing at a ball, I don't know if you could hit it much more softly than Djokovic hits it. And he bounces it once. And he does it he's not looking as he's taking the ball out of his pocket and he's beginning to swing. And he's turning his head around as he's hitting it. And it's kind of like the quarterback who throws the pass, and as the ball is leaving their fingertips, they realize, oh, blank, I didn't see that cornerback. This is going to be picked off. And they almost start running towards the interception because they're going to have to make a tackle. That was Djokovic in this instance. Ball hits the woman lines person in the throat.
In the throat.
Clearly the worst place it could have hit her, because any place else probably brush it off. I guess the eye could have been bad, but and so 10 minutes, they're checking on her and they're discussing what they're going to do with Djokovic. And they claim the rules gave them no out. That this is the only option they had. Listen,
here's a joke.
That's
the one thing I will say. And all of the talking heads on ESPN during this completely back the USTA.
I know.
There was one guy, and I forgot what his name was. There was one guy who finally just said, wait a minute. You're kidding me, right?
Yes. This is a joke. Fowler backed it up. Patrick McEnroe backed it up.
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry. It was an accident. It was an accident. And as you said, Mark, and I use this often. To me, malice. All right. Malice is a really good word. You want to render punishment on somebody? Ask yourself this. Did they do whatever it is they did with malice? Djokovic clearly did not do it with malice. All right. It was a complete accident. Djokovic didn't know if he was hitting the ball to a ball boy or a ball girl. And as the ball is on their way there, he realizes, oh, blank, that's a lineswoman. All right. The lineswoman did not miss a call. There was no reason for Djokovic to be mad at her. He was a little disgusted with himself. He takes the ball out of his pocket. He bounces it also. He doesn't hit it hard on the line. He bounces it behind him. The woman's not paying attention. It hits her in the throat. Was he wrong? Of course he's in the wrong.
They're taking a game away. They could have done a lot there.
Exactly.
By the way, which a game cost him the set.
Correct.
He was just broke. So at 6-5, he might lose the set anyhow. But if they want to take a game right there, and I believe would that lose the guy's service game? Would Joker serve again?
No. That's the other thing. It not only would have given his opponent the first set, he then would have started the second set serving.
So that is a hell of a punishment.
It is.
Taking away one of 3 sets, you have to win.
Right. And to me, that was the proper punishment. Okay, listen, I started to say a moment ago, and sorry to interrupt you, Mark, I love Serena. Everybody who listens to this show knows I love Serena. All right, and I'm borderline a Serena apologist for some of her behavior. But for as much as I love her, she did in a women's final one time threaten to take a racket and shove it up a lineswoman's orifice, and then later on threatened to kill her with said racket. She got a game taken away from her. I love Serena. But if I had to look at the two, and by the way, Serena, number 1 player in the world, legendary player, 23 majors. Djokovic, number 1 player in the world, legendary player, 17, 18 majors, something like that. So, it's a similar comparison. And they didn't default Serena, and they could have. And you could argue should have.
Should have.
And I love her, but
she was incredibly out of line. They ended up taking 2 games away from her in that.
No, took a game. They first a point, then a game. Now the next step would have been default.
By the way, that one most people think was deliberate because she had a beef with that chairperson, and many thought it was premeditated, that she was just waiting for the moment to go off, which is why they could have defaulted her. But that's before.
But they defaulted, and by the way, I don't think they do it if there's a crowd. That's another thing. I don't think they do it if it's a crowd. I think it was easier for them to come to this decision because they weren't disappointing anybody. Arthur Ashe Stadium there wasn't filled with 23,000 people.
But they're disappointing everybody because there aren't a lot of draws left in this sport.
Well, no. I mean, Federer and Nadal aren't there. You're
right.
But Mark, forget the fact it's Djokovic. Honestly, if it was anybody, it was an accident.
David, that's actually, to me, more of the point. If it was anybody else, if it's the 32nd ranked player in the world, I don't even know if we hear about it.
Well, I would like to think we'd heard about it, but we probably wouldn't be doing a segment on it. But ask yourself this. If it was an unseeded player, do you think male or female, that they should have been kicked out of the tournament? Mark, he was essentially ejected from the tournament. I don't know what was the more ridiculous ejection this weekend. Mike Rizzo, the general manager of the Washington Nationals, ejected from his suite. Okay, because he yelled down at Joe West. That's brutal. You guys are brutal today. And because there's no fans, they could hear him, and the umpires kicked him out. Kicked out the general manager.
Which I don't even know if they can do.
Well, they called to find out if they could do. So this year, Strasburg's been ejected from the stands.
By the way, it was Joe West that threw him out. I mean, we do need to point out that it's the worst umpire in the game today.
Angel Hernandez.
Sorry.
I mean, but yes.
He's a clear number 2.
He's a medalist. There's no doubt about it. Country Joe's a medalist.
And he at least let you know that he's voting for Trump after the game. I mean, that was the important thing. I'd throw out Donald Trump, but I'd still vote for him.
Right.
Why he needed to interject that post-game, I have no idea. But, Joe, thanks for voting.
I will say this. It is actually what I do like about Joe West. He does have personality. He is opinionated. It is a little too much about country Joe West. But you know what? That's a good line. If it was Donald Trump, I would have thrown him out too, but I still would have voted for him. You know what? That's a quality post-game quote. That's quality.
If you say so, I guess I'm just against post-game quotes from umpires.
Well, but they come up to you and they go, why'd you throw him out? And instead of them ducking it, they answered it. You know me, Mark. I think they should have to talk. I don't like the fact that umpires and officials can largely hide behind anonymity when they do something. But I can't believe, honestly, I cannot believe, forget the fact that it's Novak Djokovic. I cannot believe they kicked the player out in that instance. And then most of the sport supported it. And I also feel badly to show you where we are as a society right now. The lineswoman who did nothing wrong, she was the victim of the accidental, hitting of the tennis ball, if you will. She's now getting death threats. I mean, come on. We got to get a grip.
We do have to get a grip because she did not have him thrown out.
No, it was the chair umpire in the tournament that did it. I mean, and listen, Djokovic handled it better than I would have. I mean, he seemed to give quotes in which he was understanding of their decision. I would have said, listen, I feel horribly about this. I should not have been kicked out. I mean, I was in the wrong, but it was an accident. Mark, let me ask you this. This is what I would have been saying. Remember, there's a 10-minute discussion that takes place. 10 minutes. I would have said, if I was Djokovic, what's the difference if I serve the ball down the tee? How many, and you see this maybe once a match where a lines person gets hit with a hit ball because they're just concentrating on the line and they don't pay, the ball hits and it comes right at them and it bounces off their shoulder or what have you. I mean, I one-hopped one gently back to the wall thinking I was hitting it to a ball boy or a ball girl, and inadvertently it was a lineswoman. Also, Djokovic is not a bad behavior guy. Okay? But, I mean, think about it. If he had accidentally hit the lineswoman down the tee with a 130-mile-an-hour serve, okay, would they have done anything to him? Of course not. Of course not. Listen, Dandy Coins in our Twitch chat room. Action, reaction, consequences. Yes, we say take a game away from him.
And a game would have been the set. The set, and his opponent's now serving to start the second set. That's a pretty big deal.
They kicked him out of the tournament. I mean, say it out loud. What does a player have to do, in your estimation, to be kicked out of the tournament? Not a game, kicked out of the tournament. I mean, if he had done it with any malicious intent, if it was not an accident, kick him out of the tournament, ban him from the tour for 6 months, a year, seriously. I'd throw the book at him. But it was an accident. I'm sorry. Exactly. I mean, I love Serena. Okay. But,
Serena's actions were far worse than Joker's. And it's not even a discussion. To be frank, it is not even a discussion of where you would hold the two as far as the way they acted on the court. From a behavioral issue, Serena's at 10 and Joker at best with that's a 3.
At best. And it's only because it hit her in the throat also. McEnroe, those asking, did Johnny Mac ever get kicked out? Yeah, he got defaulted at the Australian Open, actually. In the 4th round of the Australian Open. And it was simply a matter at the time, it was, if you got your 3rd code violation, that's it, you were done. And John had already had 2 in the match. And he was he was trying to get away with the passive aggressive, say something about the umpire while having the back turned to the umpire and give the appearance that he was saying it to himself. Okay. And the umpire heard it and gave him a code violation. That's it, default. Okay, but yeah, defaulted him out of a grand slam. I'm sorry. I thought it was absurd. Absurd.
And if it weren't for hearing about it, I wouldn't have known they were still playing the U.S. Open.
Well, there you go.
Because I will tell you, said it before, it is the one of all, hockey, golf, all these sports without fans. David, you were right. I've tried to turn it on. It is difficult watching two players hit.
The U.S. Open without fans is not the U.S. Open.
Nope.
It's practice.
It's watching guys hit.
Mark, you're a tennis guy. All right. Think about it. French Open is known for what? The clay. Wimbledon, the grass, and the tradition. The Australian Open, quite frankly, the heat. All right. What's the U.S. Open known for?
The crowd.
The vibe.
The matches at night. New York City.
The energy.
Getting into this event.
The grit that it takes to play on the hard courts for 2 weeks, and the energy and the vibe from New York City. That's what makes that tournament. And none of it is there. Miller and Moulton, 14 minutes before the hour. Today was the day when, coming up, Pat Kerwin will join us in about 40 minutes' time. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Drive home with the Doug Gottlieb Show.
LeBron's going to have to take over. Stop falling in love with the assists. But we've told you, and he knows, that in order to win, he's got to take over late because Anthony Davis wants to float out, shoot, and jump shots. And he doesn't have the offense around him. They wanted J.R. Smith. They want some others to be, but J.R. Smith is washed.
Doug Gottlieb, afternoons at 3 on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
It's Fred Kobe with your Kobe Cooling Tip of the Day. There's a trend in the air conditioning business with the rip-off companies to become plumbers, electricians, and air conditioning companies all at the same time. The stories we hear about huge plumbing and electric work rip-offs go right along with the scams these firms...
Club Pro Guy's letter to DJ. Can't begin to tell you what a thrill it is for me to pen this letter to a guy who I have admired from a distance for years now. As you know, I usually only write congratulatory letters to first-time PGA Tour winners, but your performance today compelled me to break that tradition. DJ, you did it. You won the season-ending Tour Championship net and tied for third gross. What an accomplishment. Reminds me of 2014, one of our members, Gil Danbury, won to the C flight of our club championship net and finished 9th in the A flight gross. Gil didn't win as much money as you did, but the shop credit provided him with Dexter sandals that he wears to this day.
Heroes, both current and retired, France Eye Care would like to express their appreciation for all that you have done and all that you continue to do for the Southwest Florida community. And that's
$15 million. It's difficult for even a former tour player like myself to comprehend. For some perspective, when I played in the season-ending event of the Mexican Mini Tour in '98, the eventual winner, Alvin Ramos, won $1,200 and an 8-ball of meth. That was a different time.
Through September 11th, Dr. Jonathan France and his expert team of surgeons want to help you experience better vision and a better life without the hassle of contacts and those steamy old glasses. Take advantage of $1,500 off LASIK by dialing *** 2020 from your mobile phone and schedule your free LASIK screening today. Thank you, teachers and first responders. You're the heroes.
France Eye Care.
Dial *** 2020 from your mobile phone.
Johnny Mac, come on now. Can we not have a conspiracy theory with every goddamn thing on the planet? It looks like ESPN sped up the replay to make it look harsher. Holy cow. Oliver Stone in the house over there, for Christ's sake. Not everything's a flippin' conspiracy. He hit her in the neck with the ball. I thought he hit it harder than David thinks, but I don't think he should have been thrown out. And again, rules are rules. But the key part there is they had the malicious part in the rule that gave him an out, and they didn't use it. That's the part I don't understand.
Grand Cherokee Limited for $299 per month at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US.
Seth, it is the first time, and listen, I'll watch Serena do anything. Okay, so I have enjoyed watching Serena, but Seth, it is the first live sports here in the last 4 months that I have truly missed. No crowd.
Talk the talk.
This is what we talk about.
He's talking about good. TMZ reporting the family can now be held financially. You think starting a 7,000 acre fire, they might want to, and they're going to be parents, by the way. That's exciting.
We back it up.
Oh, it was important to have that gender reveal.
Nobody cares. Nobody outside of your family cares, and half of your family doesn't care. Your two mothers care. That your fathers care only if it's a boy. Did you see one of the women on Twitter put, enough of these gender reveal parties. They should just hand out wallets. $1 if it's a boy, 72 cents if it's a girl.
Ooh, nice. Nice.
That was a boom. That was
nice.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with
That'd be like an old Paula Poundstone joke.
free inspection. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CC.
See, George and Amanda Hall got engaged over the weekend.
Oh. Well, congratulations.
Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
9 minutes before the hour. Pat Kerwin coming up a little more than a half an hour. This is Miller and Moulton on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, 3 FMs, 2 AMs, and an HD2 channel. We're broadcasting live at millerandmoulton.com and on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Bonus Twitch hour beginning today, 9 to 10 Eastern. Must subscribe to get it. We'll talk plenty of football during the bonus hour every day, in part because it's simulcast on the Landry Football Network. 8 minutes before the hour now. Time for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Today was a day when, brought to you by the Oasis Nightclub at East Naples. Say hi to Z behind the bar. We start in 1921 today. It was the first Miss America in Atlantic City. It was as creepy then as it is now because Margaret Gorman, 16, was crowned Miss America.
Oh,
right.
Wow. Yikes.
I wasn't even sure I wanted to put it in with that, but it was the first. And
wow.
Yeah, you can do the rest yourself. 1939, your guy, David, Bob Feller, at 20, becomes the youngest pitcher to win 20. It's still remarkable to be now 20 years old to go out and get 20 wins, especially when they'd throw at you.
Well, remember, he pitches one more year, and then he signs up on December 8th of 41 and loses 4 years to military service. You look at his career numbers, and same with Ted Williams, and realize the amount of time they donated and volunteered to serve our country. Arguably, you can make the case the most remarkable hitter and pitcher post-Ruth because of their military service.
1952, Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea is published. 1954, I liked this one, David. 3-2 count. Richie Ashburn at the plate. He fouls off the next 14, then walks. Psycho was released 60 years ago today in theaters. I still argue it might be the scariest movie ever. Take all your Thrasher and Slasher and all that movies. Psycho just had straight out, edge of your seat, scare the out of you. That same day, 1960, Wilma Rudolph wins her third gold at the Rome Games, anchoring the 4x100 relay team. In 1965, the Kansas City A's Bert Campaneris plays all 9 positions in one game. That same day, the New York Daily Variety attracts 437 young men interested in forming the first boy band. That's right. Hey, we're the Monkees. It was done by an ad in the New York Daily Variety.
How about that?
1966, Star Trek premieres on NBC TV. A lot of U.S. Open stuff. Today in 68, Arthur Ashe wins his first Open. 74, Jimmy Connors wins his first of 5 on the same day that Gerald Ford pardons Richard Nixon. And Evel Knievel attempted to jump the Snake River Canyon today in 1974. 1979, Tracy Austin becomes the youngest champ at the Open, 16 years and 9 months, beating Chrissy. 1985, Pete Rose ties Ty Cobb with 41-91.
Even though it turns out he passed him because they made a mistake. Cobb has actually 2 less hits than we thought he had, but they didn't figure that out for another 10 years.
86, Oprah goes national, her first show national. 1993, Darryl Kyle for the Astros throws his 3rd no-no of the season. 1994, we watched Video Music Awards. We actually thought it was a big deal. And it started with Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley announcing they'd been married and kissing on stage. And we all wondered, was this made up? David Carr throws for 2 in 2002 as Houston beats Dallas to become only the 2nd expansion team. The 61 Vikings were the other to win their inaugural game. That same day, Pete Sampras wins his 14th and final Grand Slam, beating Andre Agassi in 4. And then after that, Federer would just start winning the tournament damn near every year going on. 2013, Serena wins. And in 2015, Stephen Colbert debuts as the host of The Late Show. You know, I've never watched that show, and I thought he was really funny when he did his segments on The Daily Show, and I have never watched his show once.
Well, and he tried to do it without being the political commentator that he was on The Daily Show. And it wasn't working.
He was miserably.
And so he went back to being in character and being anti-Trump.
Sid Caesar born today in 1922, Peter Sellers in 25, Patsy Cline in 1932, Rogie Vachon today in 1945, the late great Elsie Greenwood born today in 1946, Mo Cheeks born in 56. Want to feel old? Amy Mann, the Till Tuesday singer, is 60. Pink is 41, and Matt Barkley is 30. And that is Today Was the Day When. Brought to you by the Oasis Nightclub in East Naples. Stop by and say hi to Z behind the bar. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio.
From Southwest Florida's news.
That's how you do it, everybody. You get right out on time there. See that teamwork? David counting me down.
Have to figure out which way the hand goes.
Of COVID-19 on Monday. That is the lowest single-day number for new infections reported since June 15th. But state officials warn that number may tick up again after Labor Day.
Shut up!
Your taxpayer money to buy technology.
You know, can I ask a question? Like, I think Alfie Oaks is a little off center, but his restaurant, grocery store, nightclub has been open without masks in Naples, and I heard they're like 4 deep at the bar every night. We had a breakout in Naples yet that anybody's aware of?
Since accepting her party's nomination, she'll be in Miami.
Bueller?
Just waiting.
Bueller?
I mean, look, I don't agree with a lot of the things the guy does, but come on.
Dave Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples. And we love talking to Dave. We know that when he calls, something special's going on.
The show and the band were simultaneous, kids.
Sounds like you have a lot of that very popular Cortec that everyone is looking for and wants in their home.
Yes, we do, and we've got about 6 or 7 truckloads coming to beat the tariff increase, and we're going to guarantee.
Is all okay in Casio land?
Prices on all our in-stock.
Yeah.
Okay.
As of last night, anyway.
You're just not at all even getting a show recap after a 3-day weekend. I just didn't know.
They now have
he probably just mentally shut it down for the weekend.
We stock 100 colors of Cortec.
If you haven't been to the Floor Meisters,
I forgot we had Pat today because I'm like, well, this is 4 hours with no guests. I don't really, not my.
Go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You ace vehicle history searches and test drives. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida. 103.3 Fox Sports Radio. We are Fox Sports. Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health. C4MH.com. There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
Gave him a little shot.
You did. You
Just
did.
a
You
little
did.
rub and
Right.
trace.
And Moulton.
He is the gentleman who's got a few days off, and he entered into the garage, and he has not left. He is rebuilding a tranny. He is mixing and matching sets of golf clubs to come up with just the right 14.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like it. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? A couple minutes past the hour. We are Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, 3 FMs, 2 AMs, and an HD2 channel. If by chance you can't catch us there, we stream every show, millerandmoulton.com. You miss any part of the show, that's where you go to find our podcast, millerandmoulton.com.
Worst case scenario, stop by, pick up the tin can at Three Oaks and Estero Parkway on the corner and just listen through that.
And then you can also catch the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. And beginning today, don't know how good of an idea this was. Sounded a lot better 3 weeks ago. The bonus hour of Miller and Moulton exclusively on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel, simulcast on the Landry Football Network. U.S. Open starts in a little more than a week. I'm just going to throw this out there. He's added a few top fives lately in majors these last 2 years, but I want to see if John Rahm can play as well in a major as he's been playing, if you know what I mean. Sometimes he's not always been the best player in a major.
You know, we had someone text us this morning regarding golf and just saying, you know, you guys were talking about Rory a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any, you know, again, the Tour Championship, if you didn't start in a certain spot, I thought it was pretty tough for you to win. I mean, DJ did finish low net. He was third gross, as it was pointed out. I mean, 2 guys beat him in the tournament. He lost by 2, but he had an advantage by so many shots that he won by 2. Okay, that's fine. Now they're going to go to Winged Foot, where DJ's not played. As you mentioned, Rahm has not always been great in the majors. And Rory, who hasn't won a major now in, what, 6 years? 6 years.
2014 was when he won the British and the PGA back-to-back.
And, you know, the person in texting said he just doesn't, you know, try to basically use one of your analogies that he watched him walk down a fairway and was inside of mentally what he's doing. I'm like, he did have a kid on Monday.
Right.
I mean,
I was surprised he played.
I was too.
I mean, he doesn't need the money. I was surprised he played. And he did that out of respect for the tour. And, you know, it's for the PGA Tour, the Tour Championship and the players are their two big things. They don't have anything to do with any of the 4 majors. So to the tour, this is a really big deal to be eligible to play in the Tour Championship and not. But he did just become a father for the first time, as you pointed out, Mark, on Monday. I mean, I would think that would get you the mulligan.
It does for me.
But he played. You know,
I put it this way. I wouldn't put him in my group to win the U.S. Open.
Well, hell no. First off, he hasn't played all that great since golf restarted. I mean, he was on his roll in February and March, and he has not been able to put 4 rounds together at all. He's having trouble putting 3 in a row together.
Well, he's not putting well. And if you're not making putts out there, you can't win. I mean, the one thing about the golf break and coming back with no fans is that, I mean, you did this in the truck for a few tournaments. I don't ever recall this many bombs going in. It seems like every tournament, guys are just dunking 30-footers like they're 10-footers. And I'm not even talking the, JT 60-footer. I mean, there are guys making a lot of putts out there. And if you're going to win, you have to. So it will be interesting as we get ready for the U.S. Open here in a couple of weeks. Our poll question today, by the way, is not about any of the side sports. No basketball, no hockey, no baseball, no tennis, no golf. It's about football. And it's about the Miami Dolphins, and it's about a quarterback. When do you think Tua will start his first game for the Dolphins? We have 4 choices. Week 4 after the Thursday game. Week 11 after the bye. Week 17, which was Mahomes-like, because he did get the 1 start at the end of his rookie year, or 2021. At the moment, it is split evenly between week 4 after the Thursday game and week 11 after the bye, both bringing in just a little over 38%. 2021 is next, and the week 17, a little less than 10%. That is our poll question for today, as every single poll question this week will be about football. Every damn one. In fact, every poll question, maybe until Thanksgiving, might be about football.
I think week 11 after the bye.
And I think 2021.
That would surprise me. That would genuinely surprise me. I'll tell you what, Mark. I will venture out on this limb. If it's not until the final week of the year or 2021, to me it says the Dolphins are having a surprisingly good year. That they are in contention. That, all the way into December, they are playing games that have meaning. Remember, 7 teams make the playoffs this year. An 8-8 team would have been the 7 seed last year in the AFC. Mark, here's a topic. I may bring this back up again at some point, but we've yet to make our picks. We've yet to even talk about making our picks for the 2020 NFL season.
For all week.
Right.
We can break down. You want to go game by game through every one of the teams, we can do it. We've got the time.
But how about this? And this could be a poll question later on. But in the NFC, I think there are more good teams in the NFC than the AFC. Doesn't mean the best teams in the NFC. I think there's more good teams in the NFC than the AFC. And here's why I say this. Which division is not going to have their second place team make the playoffs in the NFC? Because obviously 4 divisions, if 2 teams made it from each division, that'd be 8 playoff teams. Because think about it, in the East, now the Giants and team formerly known as the Redskins are not good. But the thought is the Eagles and the Cowboys are. The Packers and the Vikings. In the West, you've got San Francisco, Seattle, at the very least.
At the very least.
At the very least.
You've given up on the Rams already, and you don't think Arizona can have, because there are a lot of people who think Arizona is going to be a much improved team this year.
And then obviously in the South, this year, you've got the Saints, and many people feel the Bucks. Well, obviously, one of those 8 teams at the very least that I just mentioned, Eagles, Cowboys, Packers, Vikings, Saints, Bucks, Niners, Seahawks. Well, at the very least, one of those 8 is not making the playoffs.
I want to stop you quickly because I love what you're doing with this. Any thoughts in your head that Atlanta or Arizona, LA are better than one of the 2 teams in the NFC East that you mentioned, than the Cowboys or the Eagles?
Better? No, not to me.
As good?
No.
Okay.
Atlanta's intriguing for this respect. It's a make it happen year in Atlanta. Everybody got brought back. Turned out to be the right thing to do with it being a coronavirus season and all that. And Atlanta finished strong. Remember, Atlanta goes into San Francisco and beats the Niners when the Niners are trying to win the division and secure the 1 seed late in the season last year. I mean, the Niners had something to play for, and Atlanta went into Santa Clara and beat the Niners. Atlanta finished the season, I think, 4-1 in their last 5. And it's a make-it-happen year. Now, I still don't like them at the line of scrimmage. I don't. Offensive line, so many injuries. I don't think they have a pass rush at all. So, ultimately, I say no on Atlanta. But they're intriguing.
And they made the changes defensively last year, changed coordinators, and it did wonders for how their defense played, even with the lack of a pass rush that David talks about. And that's why I just brought those teams, because those are 3 teams there. The Bears would be a 4th team that's not picked 1st or 2nd. That, the Bears gave us the 12-4 to nowhere. As we mentioned earlier in the show, they were 8-8 last year.
Correct. Think about the difference of opinion that most of us, and I think you and I included, have. Dallas went 8-8 last year. Chicago went 8-8 last year. Does anybody view the Bears as being as good as the Cowboys right now? I mean,
no.
Chicago's won 20 games the last 2 years.
Right.
Dallas hasn't. I'll say this about Atlanta, Mark. A tough start to their season. Home for Seattle, at Dallas, home for Chicago, at Green Bay. It ain't easy.
Nope. And as we mentioned, the South gets the AFC West and the NFC North.
And that ain't easy either.
No, it's why the Bucs schedule was so intriguing to go to games. They've got Mahomes coming to town. They got Rodgers coming to town. I mean, this is a fun schedule for the Bucs, but it ain't easy.
No, it's not. But I'm just throwing that out there. Of the 1st and 2nd place teams based on last year in those respective divisions. And the worst 2nd place team last year was Tampa Bay. They finished tied with Atlanta at 7-9. And they've obviously, they've added a few. And so which one of those 8, forget the other 8, which one of those 8 in which you go, here's my $20, they're not making the playoffs? Because let's face it, the Cowboys went 8-8 last year, and a lot of people thought that was coaching. I mean, the reason they went 8-8 was Jason Garrett. So I'm just right then and there in the NFC. Meanwhile, I think in the AFC, you start looking at the 2nd place teams. Okay, I guess for now we have to say Buffalo in the East. Now, the Steelers were the 2nd place team last year. They did go 8-8, and that was without Ben. The Titans were the 2nd place team in the South. Okay. And then you didn't have a 500 team in the West. You had the Raiders and the Broncos who were tied and the Chargers who were a game worse than them. But when I look at the NFC, Mark, I just have the feeling that it's more likely that a team that we all think is quote unquote good will miss the playoffs than when I look at the AFC and I go, boy, there's at least going to be one good team miss the playoffs here. Are you sure?
And the other side of it is with the AFC is your expectations. You were a guy, and you've talked about this a lot. 1, you liked Drew Lock. 2, you liked how Denver finished the season. You know that they didn't play anybody difficult to finish the season. But their quarterback gained confidence. They end up going 7-9, winning, 4 of their last 5, something like
Correct.
that.
Yep.
And that's a team that you can look at and go, well, they were 7-9. How difficult is it to just flip that? To just flip that and make it 9-7. They should be better. As you mentioned, the Steelers would have been in a year ago, but the Browns, who had very high expectations, were 6-10.
Well, think of who the high expectations were a year ago today, Mark. Chicago and Cleveland. Those were the high expectations. I mean, the Bears were talking Super Bowl. And everybody around the Bears was talking Super Bowl. coming off the 12-win season, and everyone last year was drinking the Browns are going to make the playoffs Kool-Aid.
Now we know the Jags got worse. We think the Colts got better.
Well, they have to. I'd be shocked if the Colts aren't better.
So I'm with you. I definitely think in the AFC, you're far more likely to get 3 teams from one division than you are to have, the scenario you kind of put out, what second place team in the NFC doesn't get in.
And I believe, for what it's worth, Colin Cowherd has 3 teams from the AFC West making the playoffs. Only the Raiders not making the playoffs from the West.
Tyrod Taylor and the Chargers in the postseason?
Well, this is another interesting team. What were the Chargers in 2018? The Chargers were 12-4. The Chargers finished tied with the Chiefs for first in the AFC West, the same Chiefs team that lost to the Patriots in overtime in the AFC title game. The Chargers lost a tiebreaker. Then they went to Baltimore and beat the Ravens before losing in New England. And from a roster standpoint, Mark, remember, just a year ago, what were we and many others saying? We were asking the rhetorical question, is there a roster in the NFL better than the Chargers? Better. Not as good, but better. That's how good the Chargers looked on paper. And we all know what can happen to paper.
Well, and I guess I thought 2 years ago, most people said that. By last year, I think they'd already started losing some guys. They lost some guys in this offseason. Obviously, they lose Phillip Rivers. We'll see what happens there. I'm not going to make that mistake anymore. I've written off the LA Chargers. I'm done. I've jumped on that. I have crashed in that boat too many times, David. That ship has gone down, down, down.
I just figured out why you've written off the Chargers. Because it's only now that you officially have moved them from San Diego to Los Angeles.
Bingo.
While they were still the San Diego Chargers in
like
your
one
head.
of those small boats in a Trump rally. You can't survive around the big boats. You're going to go down.
That funny. That funny. 479-5551. That's how you can chime in on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. 479-5551. But just throwing that out there about the NFC. Like, I thought Green Bay had a bit of a magic carpet ride year last year. There's no way to me that they repeat 13-3. No way. I don't see that at all.
I don't either, but what's it going to take? I mean, they were 3 games clear of the Vikings.
Now, the Vikings did mail in the regular season finale last year. I think if they had to play it for any sort of playoff seeding, that they would have won it and they would have been an 11-win team. But you can argue the Packers are not better on paper than a year ago. You can argue the Vikings are not better on paper. You can argue the Bears are not better on paper. You can argue Detroit is better on paper. Now, what does all this mean? Not a damn thing right now. But when you're trying to look at who's going to do what and finish where, Tampa Bay is clearly better. Clearly better. New Orleans may be the best roster in the conference. Now, I'll tell you what, I am a little concerned about all the injuries in San Francisco. Never forget the Super Bowl hangover. I mean, they don't have 3 healthy wide receivers, it seems like.
No, they don't. Now, I will say this. Here are a couple of things that, we don't know. And David and I have been caught playing the schedule game over the years. And we don't do it nearly as much as we used to. But we think we've got a pretty good idea of what divisions are good. And we're going to be wrong about a team. One team's going to be far better than we thought. One team's going to be far worse than they were supposed to be. But Giants and Washington. Well, if you're Philadelphia or the Cowboys and you can go 5-1 in the division, you're halfway home.
Correct.
When you get to the West, well, I don't know if you can do that. I mean, to beat Arizona twice and to beat the Rams twice and then to split with the other one if you're Seattle or the Niners, that's not an easy task. Same in the North. Whereas if you're one of the two, one of the good teams in the South, and if you're right about Atlanta's line of scrimmage, David, well, Carolina's should be bad.
Yes. Yeah, Carolina and Jacksonville are competing for what's-his-face at Clemson, Trevor Lawrence.
And I think that's, That should be, if you can take care of Atlanta, you can get those 4 wins. And that's where I look at the South and I look at the East with a little bit of an advantage for teams in the NFC, because you've got to take care of them. You've got to take care of those bad teams. And if Detroit's indeed a little bit better, it's going to be more difficult for the Packers or the Vikings to knock them off twice. We shall see. After all, it is Detroit.
As for the Lions, first off, they have an early bye week, week 5. I don't know if this is going to matter much this year, Mark, but the Lions do play 4 of their first 6 on the road. And we all know Detroit is mediocre at home, but they're lousy on the road, which also brings into importance week 1 at home against Chicago, because they're going to play 4 of their next 5 after that on the road.
And they're pretty good teams, if I'm not mistaken.
And then their last 4, let's just say Detroit gets, they're 6-6, and they've got a chance here down the stretch. Their last 4 opponents are Green Bay, Tennessee, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota. Now, 3 of the 4 are home, but still, NFC Championship game team, AFC Championship game team, Tampa Bay, who nobody thinks Detroit's better than, and Minnesota, who won a playoff game last year. So, I very difficult beginning and end for a team that some are circling as a sleeper team.
I don't think they are, for all of the reasons you mentioned.
And I don't think that the loser of the Bears-Lions week 1 recovers. Now, doesn't mean that they're going to go in the tank after week 1, but I just think we will look back and go, well, week 1 couldn't beat so-and-so that we should have known.
I mean, it used to be 8 winners and 4 losers from week 1 who make the postseason on average. I'm with you, David. The loser of the Bears-Lions game basically has eliminated their chances.
Yeah, they're in trouble. They're in trouble, particularly in the NFC and particularly in their division. Miller and Moulton. Pat Kerwin, the first of his 2 weekly appearances, and he will do that for the next 5+ months. Pat Kerwin, courtesy of Pinchers, is next on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Get ready. For game day.
This day is all day.
Thursday, the Hurricanes take on UAB.
For y'all.
You ready? Southwest Florida's best football coverage. Fox Sports Radio.
When I see something beautiful, I want to capture that moment. A photo really is worth more than 1,000 words. That photo isn't very good if it's not in focus.
Mrs. Buck loves photography. The glasses were getting in her way.
Even though photography is just a hobby, it's something I really care about, and it's good to know that Dr. Liss cared about me just as much.
We really don't want bad vision to keep people from doing the things they love.
Community Eye Center really does have the most caring doctors in sight.
Hi, this is Dr. Scheibel from Community Eye Center. My partner, Dr. Spatter.
Don't be a spreader.
Don't be a spreader.
Don't be a spreader.
As we run around in our trucks and cars and play golf and go fishing and go to work and do the things we like to do, we are spreading the virus. The virus can only move with us. Over 65, diabetes, COPD, all these folks will be hurt severely by this virus. Wash your hands. Be careful. Don't be a spreader.
Brett AC is growing and needs qualified AC install technicians now.
Don't sweat. Call Brett.
This is not a sales job. If you feel like you're the
all right,
best of the best,
David, you're aware of the song with the initials WAP that's popular right at the moment. So someone retweeted this. Apparently, I don't even know what Francesa is doing, but Francesa read the lyrics to it. That might be. I'm really excited for this next hour, that 10 o'clock hour when I can listen to Francesa reading the lyrics to that song.
Don't sweat. Call Brett.
What do you mean he read them? He's retired. Where'd he do it?
I don't know. I don't know what he's doing.
3633. Apply online at brettairconditioning.com.
Don't sweat.
It's actually Francesa. It's not
I don't know.
someone impersonating Francesa.
I don't know.
for a frameless shower door? My Shower Door has just opened.
One can only hope,
Florida
David.
showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more? Go to myshowerdor.com.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau.
That's right, I got a dentist
owner of
appointment
D.R.
today.
Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1.
What time?
11.
PCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R.
Good morning, Mark.
Hey, Pat, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Finally, football's here.
Yeah, no kidding. Did you watch any of the college game last night?
I did not. I was working on some stuff that I have to do.
I figured it was just hysterical. Belichick calls in to the Navy BYU game and was on the air for a while. Like, they kept him through a break. And as a guy that I follow on Twitter that comes on the show said, I didn't know I needed to have Bill Belichick tell me about Navy football, but I really needed Bill Belichick to tell me about. He wasn't good. He was terrific.
Yeah, he is so underrated. It's not even funny what that guy's all about.
Well, as David said, the guy is known for "We're on to Cincinnati." I mean, that is his most famous quote.
Well, he can't stand the media, which he's pretty clear about, but he likes football life on his terms. So if you're going to let him be a conversationalist of the game, and he only likes to do it with people that he thinks know the game.
Yep.
Then you got a chance with him.
Here we go.
You're live.
27 minutes past the hour. Top of the morning to you. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Pleasure to welcome Pat Kerwin. He of CBS's NFL Today show and Moving the Chains weekday afternoons on NFL Radio. Pat joins us courtesy of Pinchers. From Tampa to Key West and many points in between with 8 locations in Southwest Florida. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, you made it. The season kicks off in 60 hours, big fella.
Aren't we all lucky? And people that I know that are not football fans think that the return of the NFL, now we have other sports that are playing, but a guy said to me the other day, and he doesn't even like football. He doesn't even care. He goes, it's a symbolic gesture in his mind that the American world is coming back to order, and that this is going to be the start of what he didn't call it recovery. He just said the start of normalcy when the NFL starts playing, that we will feel like we're back to a world that we remember so well and have missed for all these months. I said, well, I'm not that dramatic. I just like football. But if you see symbolic gesture in it, we'll go with that for today.
So, Pat, last night was the first college game that I really sat down and watched part of because it ended up being a blowout, and found out that Navy, during all of their preparation, didn't tackle. And, well, it showed last night. So I bring that up to ask you this. How, from team 1 to team 32 in the NFL, how different do teams conduct their training camp from a physicality? I know there's only a limited amount of hitting. I know there's only a limited amount of padded practices. But does each team handle the physicality of camp differently?
Yes. There are coaches that really see their team as an elite set of starters with literally no backups, and usually because they can't afford backups because they have such high priced starters. Those guys are really careful and don't hit it all. One coach said we didn't hit really this summer. No, we never took, here's his quote, we never took anyone to the ground. That's how he saw it. Other guys were like, hey, I got all these young players, and colleges don't tackle either. The Pac-12 doesn't even go out in pads during the regular season. Now they're not even playing this year. But I think when the guy has a young football team, he's going to tackle. And some of the guys, defensive-minded guys especially, recognize the value of tackling, and they do it. But it's an inconsistent thing, and it's not an exact science. And there are guys that did not tackle last summer. This is not COVID related. It's philosophical. And they played pretty good. You know that back in the Mike Shanahan days, right at the end of camp, they wore sweats for the whole season. They didn't go out in pads at practice. And I remember Greg Robinson, one of my closest friends, hired as a D coordinator. He's a D coordinator for the 2 Super Bowls. He goes, "This is driving me nuts. I come from the world of tackling, and we got sweats on for the whole season, and yet we won 2 Super Bowls." So you got to take a look at those things. So the philosophy is different around the league. The texture of your football team is certainly a piece of that. But I'll say this to you guys. This is the scary part. High schools don't tackle anymore. So the high schools aren't tackling. The colleges don't tackle really unless you go to Alabama. So who's coming to the NFL? You know, one of the guys said, he goes, "Oh, tackling's like riding a bike." I said, "Yeah, if you learn how to ride a bike. But if you never learned how to ride a bike, you're going to fall off the first time. I don't care who you are." So it is a deteriorating skill. And the salary cap and big salaries have scared guys off from doing it at all.
Pat, putting rosters together, another interesting weekend where some teams in the same division kept 2 quarterbacks while another one kept 5. You had the Eagles do what we had talked about doing, which is just sign a guy and let him stay home. And just in case for COVID reasons, we need you. We thought a 4th quarterback, a long snapper, maybe a kicker and or a punter, that we would do it if we were putting a team together. Was there a personnel decision or a team in general in their roster construction in this COVID year that you found most interesting?
Well, again, another philosophical split here. 17 teams kept 3 quarterbacks and 15 teams kept 2. Now, I talked to Dave Gettleman yesterday. He's one of the keep 2 guys, and he said they're looking for a 3rd. Billy O'Brien said they're looking for a 3rd. So those guys are going to fill that in. And even Dave Gettleman admitted to me, if we lose someone, the list of guys available is pretty long. We know the guys that could run our stuff, and then they go out and sign them. And remember, there's a lot of quarterbacks on people's practice squads. And I can call those guys, legally call them and go, "Hey, you want to come be our 3rd, and you'll be active on game day?" And our starter, the reason I'm calling you is our starter is out for a month. So you'll be able to acquire a guy if you're just looking for a 3rd. Billy O'Brien the other day said, "Well, you know, got a Thursday night game. Can't get a guy ready. You know, it's kind of a waste of time. Next week we'll get one." Oh, you know why they're saying that? Because starting next week, you don't have to count the salary as guaranteed. And he knows that. And a lot of them know that. So they're going to hold their breath for week 1, and then they're going to sign a guy. And that guy, look, Cincinnati drives me nuts. They got a starter who's never played, and the backup is Ryan Finley, who was a last-year rookie. So in the quarterback rooms, Jimmy Miller likes to point out, you don't have a veteran in there. That team should sign Matt Moore and get a guy who's been around forever for 2 reasons. 1, how do you prepare in the classroom all week? And 2, which is really 1, standing on the sideline as the kid comes off the field bewildered, you grab him and you can calm him down. The 3rd string quarterback, if he's an old wily veteran, is a much better guy than a coach even, because the kid will look at him and realize, you've been with me for everything. I've asked you all these questions. Help me with this. Now, what they did in Philadelphia, putting Josh McCown on the practice squad and basically kind of putting him in the refrigerator, is perfect. That's the kind of guy that I would have. Now, there are teams that have 4 and 5. The Jets, I think, have 5 under contract. That's ridiculous. But me right now this is how I would do it. 2 on the active roster, 1 on the practice squad, and then stay in touch with about 4 agents in case I need a veteran to get in here. That's how I do it. And the kid on the practice squad or grown-up man on the practice squad, I pay him enough that he wouldn't leave. I don't need to count him because I'm only going to activate 2 on game day. So, and I'm going to travel my practice squad quarterback. So I'm going to pay that guy a nice salary, and he's never going to leave me. So that's how I would do it.
Pat, we broke it down today. There are going to be 11 teams. You're talking about 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks. There are 11 teams in the league this year that their starting quarterback this week will be different than their starting quarterback a year ago. How much of a deal will that make, particularly with the Drew Locks of the world, the guys that came in halfway through? Are they ready now?
No, but neither are the rest of his teammates. So everyone has basically confirmed to me that they're going into this September in practice mode with limited game plans. And look, there's going to be blitzes they can't handle. The answer I keep getting is we'll just max protect more. We'll just leave guys in and we'll try to handle that stuff so they don't kill our quarterback. But I guarantee the defenses are bringing the heat. They know that in this world we lived in all summer, you could not get over and rehearse all the probable pressures that there are in the NFL. And a lot of these teams have already installed 30 blitzes. Well, there is no chance that these quarterbacks have taken multiple reps against 30 different blitzes. And you're going to see a lot of them. And people just feel like the O-lines have a rookie or two on them. If you got a center that's out and you got to put a kid in there who can't recognize the fronts, and then a quarterback that can't find the third receiver, there's a lot of reasons to get after people, and they will. So you'll see more max protect, kind of like it'll look a little bit like a high school football game, I think, until they figure out what everyone knows and how much more they can put in. Nobody told me that they've installed their whole offense.
He's Pat Kerwin, CBS's NFL Today show. Moving the chains weekday afternoons on NFL radio, and Pat joins us twice a week during the season, courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. All right, Tennessee wins the Clowney sweepstakes. A, your thoughts on Clowney choosing Tennessee, and B, do you think this takes Tennessee's roster and puts it in the area code of Baltimore and Kansas City?
No, I like Tennessee. I think the first question is, what am I doing with Vic Beasley? Maybe I'll trade him. He hasn't been a very cooperative teammate and doesn't show up for a while. I don't know. I'd be calling Tennessee going, you moving Beasley? I'd be interested in talking to you. That's the first thing. The second thing is the guy's never been, this is now we're up to Clowney. He's never been a double-digit sack guy. I had a caller yesterday. Oh, he's going to have 11 sacks. I said, how would you know that? He's never done that. And I'm not sure he's 100% healthy, and he hasn't practiced all summer. Yet he never practices in the summer. This is his perfect, ideal situation. I didn't even have to go and have the coach look at me. I just wait till the season starts. No, I think it's a big name, and that's about it. And he's a nice player, but if you really study him, you got to ask yourself, have we all been waiting for him to be great? And I put myself in that category. So I don't think he puts them over the top. I think we got to go back and ask ourselves, will Tannehill be everything we saw in a Titan uniform now that he's going to be full-time? Or is there a little Tannehill back there that's going to surface that we've seen before in a Dolphin uniform? So I like them. I would think they're going to win the division. But to get to the status of Kansas City and even Baltimore, who they beat last year, no, I'm not putting them there.
Pat, a year ago, a lot of people, and I don't remember if you were one of them, were big on the Chicago Bears coming off of a great year. The Bears were certainly pretty high on themselves. And we all know that they went and signed Foles, and now, much like you expected, they're going to start Trubisky because you've always said Foles is a relief pitcher. But just how surprised were you that Mitchell Trubisky is going to get the nod in Chicago?
Well, I was not a big proponent of the Bears, number one, but Jimmy Miller is. He picked them to win the division this year. He did that yesterday. Now, the wrath of fans that think Jimmy's, a Bear homer, that starts this afternoon. Stay tuned. I told Jimmy he's going to take a beating from Packer fans, Viking fans. Good luck, James. No, I don't see. I see them as a nice defense and a mediocre offense. And I never thought Trubisky wasn't going to be the starter. He was a first-round draft pick. That coach was hired, and the GM drafted him, and that coach was hired to assure that Trubisky becomes a star. So they're at the last stop now. How short is the leash? There's the real question with Trubisky. I think it's a month. I think he'd have to stumble and fall. I think if they benched him the first week, then it was a charade. But I think they're trying to save his career, and they're trying to reinvent him from the guy that was good for a year. Trubisky, don't believe all the stuff you read, but he is maturing. I sat down with him. I got a sense that he's growing up, and maybe it's the pressure of Foles, but Foles is such a good guy and so understanding of how to be in the room that he's not applying pressure to the kid. So the kid has no excuses. He has to go out and deliver. If October comes and they're 1-3 and it's his fault, he'll be on the bench again, and we'll never see him in a Bear uniform again, barring injury.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if they're 1-3, they're done because the first 4 games are arguably the softest part of the Bears' schedule. At the Lions, home for the Giants. At Atlanta, home for Indy. Now, we all think Indy's better than their record of a year ago, but that's 4 teams that had a losing record last year. The Bears had a better record last year than all 4 of those teams. That's as soft as their schedule is all year. They better get off to a 3-1 start.
They won't.
No, I don't think they will either because I don't think they're that good. But I'm just saying, if they don't get off to a good start, that's as easy as it gets on paper.
On paper, but name the quarterbacks they're going against. You can eliminate the Giant quarterback. Who are the other 3? Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, and who?
Matt Stafford. Right. I know.
Yeah. We'll find out.
So, Pat, who is your team this year that was a loser a year ago that you have a little bit higher expectations for than maybe the rest of us do?
Well, let me start with the teams I have less expectations for. We'll start there. Philadelphia, I don't see them making the playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah, they're beat up already. What do you like about them? Their offensive line's in shambles. And yeah, they're moving over Jason Peters, but who's taking his place? The rookie? So, and there's no backup behind him. So Philadelphia is a bump out for me from the playoff situation. We all know about Tampa Bay, and yeah, they'll be great. And they'll win 11 or 12 games. Pittsburgh, it's insulting to pick them to rebound to the playoffs. I think they're going to be terrific. I think New England still makes the playoffs. There's another one that's kind of a curveball. Jim loves the Denver Broncos. I see them as an 8-8 team, but he sees them as a 9 or 10 win team. I see Seattle winning the division. I almost never take Pete's team, but I see him winning the division this year. Outside of that, and you should always find some curveballs, who are the teams that could surprise? Well, I took Houston to make it as a wild card. Now, Jim and a lot of people think Houston's getting bumped out for the likes of a Denver. I don't see the Raiders making it. I'm still fascinated by, and I mean it by saying that word, fascinated by the Cardinals. I really cannot wait to see, with D-Hop on the field, the other receivers, that pass rush that they have, and the second year of this quarterback. I don't know if they're going to make it, but I'm cheering for them because I find them uniquely different because they're one of the only teams that will line up in 4 wides, a true 4 wide, 10 personnel package, and force you into dime defense. And the run game might be really good off that. The quarterback running is good off that, and matching up with all these guys. I mean, Larry Fitz is now no longer the feature guy, and he's going to get the easiest coverages where he might really have a big year, as everyone's worried about Hopkins. So I can't wait to watch them. I hope they don't lay an egg because I am excited about them. I don't see any light in the tunnel for the Redskins, the Giants, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bengals, the Lions, the Bears, Carolina, Jacksonville. Indianapolis is kind of interesting. They could be a team that could get there. So those teams, the rest of them, no. The Chargers, no. Rams, no. I see the Rams coming in last in the division. That's about my overall view of the league at this moment.
He's Pat Kerwin, moving the chains weekday afternoons on NFL radio. It's interesting to me. You mentioned the Eagles. I'm always high on the Eagles because I think they're one of the best run organizations in the league. And much like the Steelers, quite frankly, I just think it kind of trickles down from there. But I'm surprised you're as down on their roster. I mean, remember, it was a year ago at this time, and the cap problems don't really start till next year for Philadelphia. But a year ago at this time, that looked to be about as deep a roster as we had in the NFC, and they still managed, despite 60 injuries, to win that division a year ago. I'm surprised you're as down on Philly as you are.
Well, I don't think two teams will come out of the East. That's the first thing. I think the South's definitely generating two teams. I believe the West and the North will generate two. So I just look at the NFC East kind of weak. 10-6 could win the division. I like Dallas more right now with Mike McCarthy in there. And they got their own set of injuries. They have already 3 key players on injured reserve. You asked me where I see things.
Right.
And I don't mind being wrong about that. I don't like to be right when I think a team's going to be bad. I love when a guy calls in and says, "Hey, I told you they were great." I said, "You're a fan. You thought they were going to win 16 games." I said, "I'm not a fan." And I look at them and I see them just a little differently. And we'll see. That whole thing to Jason Peters, the guard money, the tack. Did anyone see yet if they gave him a few more bucks to go out the left tackle?
I think we're assuming that they did because otherwise he wouldn't have agreed to the move.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they did as well because they didn't announce it.
The Raiders, first year in Vegas, now no fans or whatever the hell we're going to do. But Mariota gets put on the IR, which no one expected him to start, but that was a little bit of a different move. What do you talk to Gruden enough? What do you hear about Vegas, and what do you thinking their expectations are?
Well, John's expectations are playoffs, and he's pretty much a realist. He's classic for saying things to me like when I see him, we stink. He's kind of like, he doesn't mince words. He did not say that to me this year. And he's kind of excited that he thinks there's enough there. He feels like that whole class from last year is just they were good last year, and he thinks they're going to explode this year. I'm not so sure about the defense. I like the linebackers that they went out and got, Littleton and Kwiatkowski. But I don't know about up front there. So I think they'll have their struggles a bit, the secondary as well. Everyone, all of a sudden, you need Arnett to be great right away. Well, that's not going to happen. Pat Mahomes and those guys are going to go right at him. And I like the kid. But no one wants to hear this, but no one's going to be in the stadium anyway. But they're a year away. I like Carr. I don't think that's been a problem, although the media loves to think Carr is going to the bench. Now they don't have to ask because Mariota's on IR. He'll probably come off IR at the first opportunity to do that. But I just see them as a 1 more year away. And you need another good draft class to play well. And then all of a sudden you're going to see like 14 starters in 2021 that are from the last 2 draft classes or the last 3 draft classes. And then you'll say, okay, now they're ready. So John's pushing them pretty hard. I just think they're still, because of who Kansas City is, I don't think they're ready for that. And I think Denver, I wouldn't say Denver's ahead of them because of Locke playing, but go ahead and block the pass rush of Denver. Let's just see if you can do that first.
He's Pat Kerwin, CBS's NFL Today show, Moving the Chains, weekday afternoons on NFL Radio. And Pat joins us once again, courtesy of Pinchers. Pat, be safe, be well, enjoy the Texans and the Chiefs. We'll talk Friday.
Yes, anxious to do that. Enjoy the rest of the week, fellas. And who do you like in the game Thursday, since we got to get on record here?
KC, lay the points.
Yes.
How many are the points?
9.5.
9.5?
Yeah.
For the sake of Friday morning, I'll take Houston in the points.
Okay.
We'll talk then, Pat.
All right, boys.
And I love the fact it used to be 10. I love the fact it's actually gone under 10. Makes me like it even more. Pat Kerwin joining us, courtesy of Pinchers, from Tampa to Key West and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. The good, the bad, and the ugly. To wrap things up, a reminder, we do a bonus hour exclusively on the Miller and Moulton Twitch channel coming up at the top of the hour. Thanks for listening. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
I wonder, how are they going to bubbleize the NCAA March Madness? Because that's NCAA money right there.
The biggest thing to bolster Pat's Eagles prediction,
Can bet
a
damn
team has not repeated
They
as
can.
NFC East champion since 2005.
Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m.
The Eagles won the division last year.
Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
So for that reasoning alone, you pick Dallas to win the East.
With over
And then can Philly be one of the wild card teams?
U.S. companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-945-1664.
See, it's funny, Miller and Moulton fan. I think the Eagles have an O-line. They just have no depth. I think their secondary is improved,
ready to take your game.
especially with the acquisition of Slay.
Improve your speed.
The wide receivers are questionable. Absolutely.
Reach your star potential at Academia Sanchez, Casal, Florida, and Naples. Operated by
They also have two really good tight ends, though.
with Emilio Sanchez and Arantxa Sanchez, the former world champ with 14 Grand Slam titles. You won't get this level of training anywhere else. And now expanded to include highly stylized off-court hydro pool programs for ages 10 and up. World-class athletic trainer and founder of Hydro Athletics, Stephen DeViti, will coach you or your child through a unique program of high-intensity, low-impact results.
Eagles can rush the passer, though.
The latest in
Wentz is the top 10 quarterback. You're right. He's got to stay healthy.
Group or one-on-one sessions, short and long-term programs for beginners through elite professional athletes of any sport. Step up your game and enroll now. Find Stephen DeViti Hydro Athletics on Instagram.
I think Darnold may have the worst wide receivers in the NFL. I think his offensive line's no better than average.
Just say
And it looks as if the Le'Veon Bell-Adam Gase marriage isn't working.
FM on TuneIn.
I'm a Darnold guy. I think he's in a bad spot.
Has the little blue pill let you down? Our expert medical staff at mymensclinic.com can and will help. Guys, if you're suffering from ED, we can fix it. Even if you have tried.
Is there going to be a good quarterback out of that class?
Studies have
Oh,
shown
yeah,
that we
I'm sorry, Lamar. I mean, what do we have? We had Darnold, Allen,
even if you have
Mayfield, Rosen,
medical conditions, they're generally
and Jackson.
We know that,
Right?
Right.
Next weekend.
Jackson's the only one that right now. I mean, we'll see about Allen. Big year for Allen.
Well, all three of them. Year 3 for Darnold, Mayfield, and Allen.
We can make
Bills fans seem to love Allen. They love him a lot more than I do.
Bills fans, it doesn't matter. They're all in on the Kool-Aid.
Totally. I will say I am really bummed for a few teams. Vegas, they have an unbelievable home schedule and don't get to enjoy it. Tampa Bay, unbelievable home schedule. Tom Brady, fans don't get to enjoy it. And Buffalo, with arguably their best team in 20 years and a really good home schedule. I mean, for God's sakes, they got the Chiefs coming to town on a Thursday night. They got 4 primetime games this year.
Well, Tom, let me. Can he win the big one? I mean, none of the other guys have won a goddamn thing yet. This guy just won the MVP. I mean, come on. There's a lot of quarterbacks that haven't won the big one. We're not talking about a Phillips career yet.
And the Bills play the Chiefs, Seahawks, and Steelers all at home. And their fans don't get to enjoy it with their best team in 20 years.
We run around in our trucks and cars and play golf and go fishing.
Well, we think it's their best team in 20 years.
The virus can only
It's their best roster.
over 65.
New England wins the division and makes the playoffs. They will freak the out.
Wash your hands. Be careful. Don't be a spreader.
From the best headlines
The best.
to the worst,
It's the worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever.
prepare yourself and hide the women and children. This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
For the good, we go to Parma, Ohio. Hello. Where Tyler and Melanie tapping something or rather. We're getting. I couldn't even give you a shot at this one. When you throw a P, an A, a J, I mean, there's too many vowels. This is a Scrabble dream right here. But the two of them were going to get married. They got married, but obviously coronavirus, COVID, the whole thing, they didn't do what they were planning to do with their nuptials. So they called their caterer, which first off, I want to be at this wedding because they hired Betty's bomb-ass burgers for their caterer. That in and of itself is a win for me. But instead of looking for a refund, they contacted the owner and asked if it would be possible to take the money from the reception and turn it into meals for a local homeless shelter instead. Pretty slick move by that couple. For the bad, we go to Douglasville, Georgia, where a Georgia sheriff was delivering civil papers, returned to her patrol car to find, well, a new driver and no papers. It seemed that a goat got into the driver's side of the police vehicle and started eating all the paperwork that was in the front seat of the car.
I hate when that happens.
And the sheriff's office said that she'll leave the door. Why the door was open? People are like, well, why is she leaving the door open? Well, when you're going to deliver something, there could be dogs or, hey, I might have to get out quick and get into my car. So they leave the door open. But that is, yeah, the goat ate it, David.
Nice.
And finally, the ugly, we go to Largo, where a 64-year-old man was going to park at the courthouse. Well, he missed the courthouse, missed the parking lot, and ended up in the retention pond. Apparently, his boot got tangled up with the pickup's gas pedal, and that's when the beautiful Ford F-150 made its way into the retention pond. He was fine. The truck, not so much. And that, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Brought to you today by the Dome in Bonita Springs. The only place that you can get off the school bus and be served a draft. The Dome in Bonita Springs.
Really?
Many a year. I have acquaintances over the years that one kid born and raised Bonitian, he said he was in high school, he'd get dropped off at the bus in the Dome parking lot and would walk in and order a beer and they would serve it to him. Now, I don't think the Dome's been there in many, 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 many years. It's now the 7-Eleven on Terry and Old 41.
Every first-class neighborhood has a place like the Dome. Everyone.
Come on horseback if you want to the Dome. Not joking. So there's some great fun stories about old Bonita. So we try to have a little fun here on this show with bringing back some of the old. Miller and Moulton. The Dan Patrick Show's next on the radio. But the Twitch-only hour debuts next.
Yeah.
All right, before this hour, I got to get a coffee. Can't believe we're doing this.
Yeah.
I got to rethink my whole life in the next 60 seconds.
Yeah, it's just... I'm with you. Ladies and gentlemen, for the record, this was Mark Miller's idea. Mark Miller was the one that said, I think we should do an exclusive Twitch hour just for Twitch. And I didn't think it was the worst idea in the world at the time. In the 3 weeks since he had the idea and I agreed to it, I have not liked it. It's definitely going to get in the way for me on the road, heading to airports and what have you. I've had to book later flights getting home and or moving from one spot to another because of the extra hour. But we're going to try to, we'll have guests during this hour that will be exclusive to the Twitch hour. We're going to, I think, beginning next Tuesday, we'll have Dr. Roto on Tuesday for waiver wire talk, early waiver wire talk on the Miller and Moulton Twitch channel. The Landry Football Hour did not request it. They wanted us to fill it in some way, and we were thinking about rebroadcasting our first hour, and we decided instead to do the bonus hour
for now.
We'll see how it works.
I don't know if this is going to be a forever thing, but it is a for now thing.
Yeah, could just be during the football season.
If we could, if there were a way to properly do the first hour over again, I would probably have done that. The problem is it's pretty difficult to right now. It's pretty difficult to do. I need more stuff, more equipment, more things, more toys.
Right. And right now we're having trouble monetizing the show to begin with. So to ask the two of us to put any more money into Miller and Moulton right now, probably not the best of time.
Yeah, I had to spend $80 on 2 indoor HD antennas just in case I can have the full football thing. And that was like pulling teeth.
We will get the Baseball America 5 scenarios, I promise. But what I'm trying to do is get the Baseball America writer to do it, because it's a subscription only story, and I only got bits and pieces of it, and then it told to me secondhand. So I don't want to do it on my own. But for those of you wondering, I referenced we have a minor league team in Southwest Florida called the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, the Class A affiliate in the Florida State League of the Twins. And they're going to revamp the minor league system beginning next year. And there's a couple scenarios that are out there in which it would not be good for the Mighty Muscles, and that the Florida State League may no longer be a 140 game season. It could get reduced to a 70 game season. So that's funny. Okay, music. Forever is not the first thing that comes to our mind either.
Tuesday is a more common theme. Can we make it through the week?
So are we official?
Oh, sure. I mean, we never stopped broadcasting. So, I mean, I don't know. I literally almost grabbed the guitar in case you needed a pee break during these 3 minutes and I didn't feel like talking. I just play a little bit.
What are
you, musical interlude at some point.
What are you, Rick Neuheisel? You just grab the guitar and you start playing?
At least once a day. Right when the show ends. Right. Well, today I got a dentist appointment. But right when the show ends, I usually go downstairs. I take Frank for his walk, and then I sit down and play the guitar for 10 or 15 minutes.
It is the bonus hour beginning on this 8th of September, the day after Labor Day. Thanks so much for being with us. We have not booked Mama Moulton for the bonus hour.
And I'm pissed about it.
And we're not going to. All right. All right.
I've worked around David before for guest bookings. And put it this way. Here's the deal I'll make with everyone right now. David, you have tried and valiantly tried. It didn't happen much, but you've kind of made this throw out there because you worked for a lot of famous people. And you have said you were going to try to get a few of these people on the show a little more regularly this year.
Yes.
So here's my bet with you. If we don't have Buck by Halloween, your mom's on in the first week of November.
Done. Done. Because if I don't have Buck,
I may text Joe Buck right now and say, Joe, you just can't come on until November.
If I don't have Buck in the next 2 weeks, I'll be disappointed. If we don't have Buck on the show in the next 2 weeks. All right. I did send a text to him recently in which I said, hey, listen, going to invite you to come on the show here soon. I said, and he goes, really, what about? And I said, a U.S. Open preview. Boom!
Oh, wow.
Boom!
Wow.
Which I think hurts me more than it hurts him.
Oh, there's no doubt. It hurts you far more than it hurts him because, well, regardless of whether or not Joe does the Open, he gets paid handsomely.
Right.
Don't do the Open.
I don't.
Get paid.
No, I don't.
Whether it's
no,
handsome
or
not, you just don't get paid.
Right. That one costs me money. There is no question about that. By the way, Dr. Roto is willing to come on here in the next 10 or so minutes and answer some fantasy early waiver wire talk if you want to go that route.
Okay. Is he going to, am I going to send him an invitation?
Well, he can't do video today is what he said.
Gotcha.
He said he can do it via phone. Okay. But so if we want, we can do little, we're going to have Roto on in our Twitch hour on Tuesdays to do little waiver wire. And then we will have him on our show at 8:25 Thursdays. Okay. Beginning this Thursday.
Lee Sterling's going to try to help you win money. Same time, same bat station, 7:20s on Friday. I know we've got Bud locked in for this year again on air or no?
Yes, and I'm trying to also get him on Twitch. I think Bud's going to be on Wednesdays.
So we're starting it. Usually by mid-August, we have our football lineup done. Well, 2020 is just that. And it literally dawned on me yesterday when I'm looking at the opening week lines. And then I get a text from Lee because he had sent me a text and an email, and I just kind of blew it off last week with things going on. And I get this frantic text yesterday. Is everything okay? I emailed you and you didn't return it. And that's when I sent you the text, David, and said, we still want Lee, right? I mean, I knew the answer was yes, but I just double checked.
Of course.
So I'm excited. Lee's going to come on via video on Fridays, like Seth does every Wednesday, which is great. So we'll do that. And with Seth this year, obviously we've done a lot of baseball with Seth over the year, but he's covering the Jets on a daily basis. So we've got, really someone to dial us in to the Jets and their opponents throughout the season. I think that would be great. And, that is a great idea, David, is if you could get a GoPro to just wear on a hat around on the road, that might be something that we would all like.
Right. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I am wondering what the statute of limitations on the whole wallet and phone jokes.
I think I've given up on the phone. The wallet I still use just because your wallet's so big. It's not so much because what happened is tragic. But
I mean, it's 2.5 years ago.
But the fact that you could leave a store and not notice that was on your person because it weighs like 7 pounds. That was always and I've kind of let the wallet go. It's really our audience that
I know.
I mean, this morning started out with the TSA stuff. It's been over 5 years since you've had an incident with as they were smartly named today. What was it? The Segway Gestapo.
Right.
So it very much is a proper name. All right. We did our poll question on the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Peter King has picked the Miami Dolphins to win the division.
Yeah. Peter King needs to be drug tested.
Well, someone asked him that. He did respond that I once smoked a doobie with the Doobie Brothers after a concert in Athens, Ohio. So Peter King admitted to smoking pot when he was in college.
That's impressive.
So I am so bewildered by Peter King's statement that the Dolphins are going to win I can't even fathom. I'm having trouble seeing Miami win 8 games, let alone win a division.
Yeah, I am too. It's first off, I don't know how much better they'll do than last year's 5-11. If only because, while I think they'll be better, their schedule is much harder. So I think they have to be nearly 2 games better this year just to have last year's record. Now, maybe they can get an extra win or so in division. But to me, I think an interesting bet is the over-under on the Dolphins. That, to me, is interesting. If the Dolphins win 8 or more games, then Brian Flores better garner serious consideration for Coach of the Year.
Well, they don't, to me, accurately vote on these. They vote, the Coach of the Year is the guy that wins the division and has a great record. You're right. Brian Flores goes 8-8 with the Miami Dolphins. He better be in the top 3 for Coach of the Year with that roster.
Hey, listen, I don't know if 5 coaches did a better job last year than Brian Flores, because that was the worst roster in the league. Make no excuses otherwise. That was the worst team in the league. And he won 5 games with it. 5. And developed a bunch of young players. The thing I like, Mark, about the Dolphins is that they are sticking to the plan. They're not calling it the plan or the process or anything like that, but they are clearly sticking to it. They also don't have a problem admitting a mistake. I mean, Flores wasn't around for Rosen. I mean, he was the head coach, but, the GM, Chris Greer, makes a decision to bring Josh Rosen in. Flores was never a Rosen guy. Okay, reluctantly played him for a couple games last year, but he doesn't like him. He did say something, Mark, to me fascinating, though. He was asked about Rosen, and he said the obligatory things. Hey, he showed up, he played hard, blah, 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 blah. But he said, Mark, he threw the best ball of all our quarterbacks in camp. Now, think about that. because Tua throws a beautiful ball. Easy to catch. He can put the right amount of steam on a slant. I mean, I know people criticized me last year when I said this. Tua throws the best slant pass I've seen since Marino. Okay, and Marino threw it harder. And Elway threw it even harder than that. But Tua with those wide receivers always hit them in stride. Always. They were never on the back hip, never up high where they were exposed for the big hit. He always hit those receivers right in stride. And Tua throws a great deep ball. He is so accurate on the deep ball. And Brian Flores, who does not like Josh Rosen, said, yeah, nobody in camp threw a better ball than Rosen. So what Flores is saying is that, hey, there's other things that goes into play in this position. He doesn't have those things.
And, Tom, I'm with you. Rosen, not only does he kind of looks like Jay Cutler. I mean, they look like brothers, and they have the same attitude. And ever since the Rosen coming out, and there's, 9 teams are going to be sorry, Josh has not said and done the right thing. And now he's already on his third team. I mean, this is a career that's virtually over.
10th overall pick of the 2018 draft. He's on his third team in 2.5 years. It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented.
Going with Arians and Brady and being in that room, maybe I don't necessarily think it's a maturity thing. I think it's whether or not he gets it. And I mean, just gets over the rich, snobby kid attitude and goes to work.
Well, Flores hinted at a couple things. He said something along the lines of Rosen is not great at the line of scrimmage. Still has trouble recognizing certain things. The other thing he talked about was Josh has a little trouble pulling the trigger. All right. You just got to let it go a little bit. All right. Well, listen, this is the perfect scenario. And Rosen chose Tampa Bay. I mean, the word is that Rosen had other opportunities, but Rosen chose Tampa Bay. There's 3 things at work here. Arians, known as a quarterback whisperer. The obvious being Brady. First year in Arizona. Do you know who his quarterback coach was, who early in the season became his offensive coordinator? Byron Leftwich. All right. If I'll say this about Josh Rosen, he's had 6 offensive coordinators in his last 5 years of organized football. 6 in his last 5 years of organized football.
If there's a spot for the redemption tour to begin, it's sitting behind Brady and working with Arians and Leftwich for a year and seeing what can happen. But
I'm sorry, Mark, one final thing. Pat Kerwin pointed this out really early. Pat Kerwin was not a Josh Rosen guy, and he went back to a question that he asked Josh before the draft. What is it that you're passionate about? And Josh Rosen's answer was tennis. And to Pat Kerwin, that's it. He's like, well, I can't make you my franchise quarterback. That's not the answer. And Flores hinted at the same thing. Well, Mark, between Brady and Arians, if he doesn't have a passion for football, he'll be out of there in a month.
No doubt there. All right, back to the Dolphins here, because I thought your point on the over-under is a better one. 6 is the number I'm seeing, right? Is that still their over-under number? That's what I've got in front of me.
That's what I'm seeing.
Okay. Now, just to get to that seems difficult. However, they play the Jags. They're a better football team than the Jags on paper.
Week 3 in Jacksonville, yes.
And it's a Thursday, so okay. Are they a better team on paper than the Jets right now, David?
It's close. It's a toss-up. And
the skill guys are far better because the Jets don't have any.
I would agree with that.
But the lines of scrimmage for both on both sides of the ball, definitely the offensive line of the Jets is better because Miami doesn't have one. And I think the Jets are a little better defensively. They're both okay defensive teams.
Yeah, Dolphins corners are much better, but the Dolphins safeties are a mess.
But if you're going to get the 6, you got to get the Jets twice. You got to get the Jags. You got to get the Bengals. I mean, these are all winnable games. I'm looking through this and wondering how many times the rest of the year they have a shot to be favored.
They start on the road in New England. They end on the road with the Raiders and the Bills, for whatever that's worth. So they play 8 of 13 at quote-unquote home in the middle. They only have one road game, Mark. There's a 5-week stretch of their season from November 15th to December 20th. They only play one road game. Now, I don't know if that's going to matter at all this year.
I wish that you could tell me they were doing that in September, though. When teams come down here and melt.
True.
Good football teams have lost to the Miami Dolphins when they had some very bad to mediocre teams in September.
I'll say this, though. Coming out of the bye, like our poll question today was, when do we think that Tua is going to play? I believe it's coming out of the bye. They're going to play 10 games. They're going to have their bye. And then I think they're going to put Tua in the starting lineup. Well, coming out of the bye, they play the Jets and the Bengals back to back. So it's another reason why I think that that's when it's Tua time, because they're putting 2 of the softer teams on their schedule on the board. Say, here you go, big fella. Knock yourself out. I think 6 is the number. I would love to be able to see it somewhere with a hook, if you know what I mean. Either down a hook or up a hook. And I would bet accordingly, Mark, because I do think 6 is the number for the Dolphins. They were a 5-11 team a year ago, right?
Yes.
And the schedule's 2 games harder. I think they're a little better. You add it all up. I think 6 is the number. I think Vegas is right on this one.
Okay. But if I push you, if I force you, your old famous line, you're $20.
Believe it.
I'm going under.
I think I'd go over, but boy, I'd hate to.
And I'm going under because I should go over because I don't think Tua is playing till next year. If I'm wrong, I like the under bet.
See, I think there's a possibility the Jets implode. So that's why I think there's a possibility. Usually the Dolphins don't sweep the Jets. I mean, whether they're good, bad, or mediocre, usually that's a split.
And it's played in 3 weeks.
Right.
They play the Jets at home. They have their bye week, and then they go to the Jets.
Right. So if I had to, I would say maybe I would lean over because I think they could get the Jets twice. They should have had the Jets twice last year. And quite frankly, the officials screwed them out of the game in Jersey.
Because I don't think they're going to beat the Patriots week 1. I don't think they're going to beat the Bills week 2. I'll give them the Jags game. They're not beating Seattle. They're not beating the Niners. I don't think they're beating the Broncos.
Well, that means they're 1-5.
And they might beat the Chargers. Might. It's at home. I mean, I can see them splitting with the Chargers and Rams.
Thing to keep in mind, though, they always split with the Patriots. Even did it last year, winning in Foxborough.
Patriots now have a quarterback that's going to take care of the Dolphins twice. This was a Brady.
But look it up, folks.
Sorry,
it's amazing. In the last 7 years, they've split 6 times. When you consider what the Dolphins have been and what the Patriots have been, and it's remarkable, Patriots fans will tell you that the Hard Rock Stadium there has been a house of horrors for New England.
I mean, they've got to play the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're playing the Raiders on the road late.
They're playing the NFC West and the AFC West. And of those 8 teams right now, name me the team that you're willing to say the Dolphins are better than right now. Not home, away, not where they are in the schedule. Of the 8
I don't think
teams,
there's one. I do not think that there's one, David. I think the Rams are better. I think Arizona's better. So I think the other 2 are. I think the Broncos are better. And the Raiders are really close.
Yeah. I mean, do I think the Dolphins are within, if we were laying point spreads, within 5 points of a couple of those teams? Yes. So obviously, could they win? Of course. But of those 8 teams, the NFC West, AFC West, name me a team on a neutral field right now the Dolphins would be favored against. I don't think they'd be favored in any of those games. Peter King, I don't see it.
I don't get it at all. Peter King picking the Miami Dolphins to win the division. I'll tell you what it does say that Peter King thinks is that Buffalo's way overrated and that he's not a Josh Allen guy. That's what he's telling you right there. If you're going to read anything into that, we all think that the Patriots roster is lousy. But no one wants to count out the New England Patriots yet because, well, they got this Belichick guy, and he seems to be able to make chicken salad out of you-know-what. And Cam Newton's doing interviews and saying it's a match made in heaven and how happy he is in New England and just towing the company line, answering football-only questions. It's hysterical. But I think Peter King's pick was really a shot at the Bills.
And the Patriots. Absolutely. I mean, pick the Dolphins. I mean, he didn't pick them to squeeze in as the 7 seed either. Picked them to win the division. I mean, in theory, you have to win an extra game to win your division than you do to sneak in and be, the 7 seed. So, although because the Steelers last year would have been the 7 seed at 8-8. Tough to count on that every year. So, the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton on our Twitch channel, and we're going to have exclusive Twitch guests. And we hope to, on Tuesdays, have Dr. Roto. And you could get your fantasy questions in our Twitch chat room. Just do a little waiver wire. Who you should be dropping and adding and that sort of deal. And I know many of you, I felt badly. I mean, I know you waited as long as possible to do your fantasy drafts and then had Fournette and AP and a few other guys that were surprisingly let go. And I know many of you had already done your fantasy draft, and that may have hurt you. So we'll bring Roto on beginning next week on Tuesday.
Yeah, just everybody's kind of done their thing. It's not much waiver wire going on this week, so I don't think it's necessary. It would have been nice. And obviously we've had our fantasy symposium or whatever you want to call it with Roto for a couple of years now, and they've been great. They've been absolutely terrific and wanted to have one again this year. But the two guys that, 2 of the thirds that would be in that room. One, David won't be allowed out of the house. I guess he's allowed out this week. Can we, what I would like? I would like a selfie of you at the airport Saturday whenever you're leaving. I want to see what your garb is.
Oh, this Saturday?
Your full hazmat suit when you're boarding the plane to head to wherever you're going.
I'm not, but I will have one of those medical masks. All right. I've got the, what are they? The MC5s or whatever they're called. Yeah. I've got those. I'm wearing those in the airports and planes. I'm more worried about airports than I am the planes.
And I'd be more worried about the plane personally, but.
See, and I think that the air system on the planes is outstanding. Now, obviously it could be the people, but I'm more worried about the airports than I am the planes, but I'm going to be wearing the medical masks between the two.
Safety goggles too? Because we were talking before. I'm not bringing anything up that you didn't talk about. You and I had a conversation. You were more full hazmat, but David couldn't leave. Roto this summer had a kidney transplant. I mean, David had the cancer. They were literally in the hospital at the same time. One losing a kidney, one getting a replacement kidney.
Right.
That's not made up. So there was no chance for us to have David and Roto out this with what's going on. It just wasn't happening. So I don't know if the next time Roto will want to go out. I don't know if you want to go out, but you have to go out.
Right. And asked the wife a couple months ago, are you okay with me working? And she said, yes. Now, I think she regrets that conversation. I do. But she has not In fact, Mark, she said something shocking to me yesterday. Shocking. I don't know how many of you are doing. I mean, we're coming up, Mark, on the 6-month anniversary of Rudy Gobert and COVID.
Yeah,
here we are.
Sounds about right.
I mean, Friday is 6 months.
Okay.
And so I don't know how many of you, how is morale in the household? I mean, I think most couples are spending more time together, forced, than they're normally used to spending. And it has caused a lot of tension, coast to coast.
Or a lot of alcohol.
Well, there's that. A lot of suppressed tension, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a point in the last 6 months in which I think the wife got a little tired of me. I got to be honest. And she cut me some slack for the whole hospital thing. But I think July was rough. I'd be willing to say that. Morale was a little low in July. And she said to me yesterday, she said, I'm going to miss you. What? Because let's just say during the last 6 months, a few things have been said in which I got the impression that maybe the door would be wide open with a red carpet on the outside. Okay. So all of a sudden yesterday, she's going to miss me. Huh? Really? Wow. Good to know. But
that is an interesting point you bring up, because you and I have both claimed that we're married to 2 of the 5 nicest people in the world, at least when we met them.
Yes.
We've ruined that.
Oh, absolutely. They don't make the list anymore.
And we have come up with a thing in our house, because sometimes my daughter, much like your daughter, David, took after you. My daughter's already learned at age 6 what sarcasm is. And that's a very dangerous tool for a 6-year-old.
Remember,
I'll say things and she'll literally look at mom and go, Dad's being sarcastic again.
Nice. Remember, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
So we have a little thing in our house that my wife kind of started when the attitude of the speaking is bad, that she'll just give a thumbs down. And it varies at who gets the thumbs down more on a weekend day, me or my 6-year-old daughter, but usually I win. I think I'm like the 3-time defending champ.
Yeah, I'd put my money on you. I got to be honest.
I would too. But the fact of the matter is that, as you've dubbed your wife, Ruth from Ozark, my wife never swears, but the attitude has come where I've had to look at her a couple times and go, and you want to talk about getting met with some eyes.
Yep.
That's the one. I had 2. I have one other dagger, because we did have a small derby party on Saturday. I sent the invitation out. Riders up, masks up. No kids. Ditch the daughter at Grammys. We're going to do bring a dish. And I kept the numbers really light. Didn't want to go too crazy with everything that's going on in our world today. Well, friends of ours texted me on Saturday morning and said, hey, not going to make it. Got stuff going on. Hey, no problem. Whatever. Well, they have kids. And the rains came, so they must have been out on the boat, and that ended. And I get another text saying, hey, you guys still going? Well, the race didn't start till 7. It's like 5 o'clock. I mean, we're just getting this sucker revved up. And all of a sudden I hear someone's at the door with kids.
Oh no.
Now they have twins and a little one.
Oh,
and
no.
The twins are best friends with my daughter.
Yeah, but the daughter's not there.
Oh, no. She's not. And you can see the mother's face when she opens the door. And she says, where's Maddie? I said, you didn't see the invitation? At which point she nearly broke her neck, turning around to shoot her husband with 2 eyeballs. She just looked at him and she said, Jacob, you didn't read the invitation that said no kids? And she was pissed for 30 seconds. And then we put a glass of wine in her hand. And she literally looked at my wife and went, wait a minute. You can have a party without kids? Is that even possible?
All of a sudden, you made her life. You're like, wow, this is a thing?
You talk about it. She had to turn around in a nanosecond. And then, I think the husband was off the hook after that point.
That's good.
But the girl from Kentucky did win the pool. And for the first time ever, people were throwing the pool money back at us and giving it to our daughter. Like the place and show money came back to the house.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? She's an only child.
Correct.
Okay? I mean, what doesn't she have? I mean, have they looked at the house? Have they looked at the house that they're having the party in? I mean, boy, what a dump. I mean, hello.
So, yeah, it's the first party I've ever had where I made money.
It's 2020, honestly. And yes, my wife has turned into Ruth from Ozark. Okay. Am I allowed to say this? It's a Twitch hour.
You can say whatever you want.
Can I?
Don't apply here.
Can I?
I think so. I don't think Twitch has any rules about swearing.
There is a find it. It's out there in which they put a video montage of clips of Ruth from Ozark, and she loves the 4-letter word. She loves many of them, but she is in love with the 4-letter word. All right. And they put these two expressions together, and I have been using them quite a lot. And I would like to apologize right now if anybody's listening and they don't like language, and you may want to turn the sound down for the next 5 or 10 seconds. But one of the sequences that they have is they have Ruth going, all right, you need to cease and fucking desist, fuck nuts. All right. And I have been saying that to my wife now for a couple of months.
And you wonder why she's ready for you to leave.
Right. And she has been saying it back to me with a few of Ruth's other expressions that are on it. And now all of a sudden she's going to miss me when I go on the road.
Johnny Mac, no, they did not drink all the bourbon. One of the lines that was uttered at the party, because one of my friends who does like good bourbon, there was a few there. He's no, I'm fine with Woodford. And then we looked at each other and started laughing because that's a decently expensive bottle of beer. No, I'm fine with the Woodford.
I'm fine with it?
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
No, I'm fine with the Woodford.
I'm fine with the Woodford. Well, okay. I guess we can take the Mercedes out to dinner.
Right, well, when I told him that I bought an orange for the party merely so I could peel off some of it and singe it for my old fashioned, he goes, then I'm very much fine with saying I'm good with the Woodford. Because we did snob it up a little bit. I mean, that does happen. That does happen. The girls had their hats on. Everybody looked good. Good time had by all. And we're not going to get a Triple Crown winner.
No, we're not. But you know what we may get? It sounds like both horses here, Authentic and 'Tis the Law, it sounds like they're both going to run the Preakness. Now, I know 17 people are going to watch, but all right, a lot of times these days, when usually it's a split heading to the Belmont, one of the two horses doesn't run the Belmont. So I like the fact that they're going to run. At least that's what they're saying they're going to do. They had the big discussion again. Now, granted, 4.5 hour pre-race show. Mark, I caught 4 minutes of it. The 4 minutes that I caught was Jerry Bailey, Mike Tirico, and one other gentleman discussing whether or not coming out of a COVID year that horse racing may change the Triple Crown and when races are running and this, that, and the other thing. And the one thing that Jerry Bailey pointed out, and he's not as big an advocate as others have been, but Jerry Bailey said, you know, he went back in history and he said, we had horses win the Kentucky Derby who raced on Tuesday and then ran a mile on Thursday and then won the Derby on Saturday. He goes, that's how much horse racing has changed from the 30s and what have you to what we do now, in which he said, you know, most trainers don't want to, and owners do not want to race a horse more than once a month. They really don't. And so Jerry Bailey thought at the very least, even if they just moved the Preakness back 1 week, if they moved it to Memorial Day weekend, he said, one, I think it'll help the Preakness. And two, it'll be 3 weeks in between the Derby and the Preakness. He goes, and then, you know, if you want to keep the Belmont where it is, do you want to push it further back? Do you want to make it July 4th? You know, in which they kind of said for the sport and racing purposes, if you think about it, we'll race the first Saturday in May, we'll race Memorial Day weekend, and then we'll run the Belmont July 4th weekend, or right around it. They thought it would help all the events.
And there is a podcast. Casio had retweeted it over the weekend. I don't know if you caught this, but ESPN podcast did a whole story, a 3-part series called Bloodlines, basically examining the past, present, and future of thoroughbred racing. We did have nearly 50 horses at Santa Anita Park die.
Yeah.
And the sport is, despite a derby being held, the sport's not in great shape.
No, not at all.
So he listened to the first one, raved about it. Kind of one of my projects for the week to listen to a little horse racing podcast, because nothing sounds more riveting than a podcast on horses. Hopefully they can interview one of these horses.
So remember the gentleman we had on a couple of weeks ago, Steve Deese? He covers covers Michigan. And he had a story late Friday night in which he said there is one person that is keeping the Big Ten from playing football right now. It's down to one person. And that person, he said, is not Commissioner Kevin Warren. It's the president of the University of Michigan. That this president is a doctor. If I get this wrong, I apologize, but I believe he's an epidemiologist, which is essentially COVID. You know, it's diseases. And he had great sway in the room when he said, hey, we should not be playing. And here's why. And so Steve Deese said he is the one who has the sway right now that is keeping other presidents from changing their vote. And at first, I got to admit, Mark, I thought to myself, hold on a second. One guy? I mean, really? I mean, we all know the pressure that these presidents are now under, and they're not used to this kind of pressure.
By the way, just really quickly, I'll let you finish, but Michigan today, they were trying to start classes on campus.
Graduate school.
All the graduate school staff are on strike.
Struck. And let them know they were going to do it, too.
Against the law in Michigan, if you work for a public university to do that, they're doing it anyhow, to tell you the problems that are going on in Ann Arbor right now, just to give a little backstory to what David's talking about. So, I actually, the first time we brought it up, I was going to finally say today, can we end this football in the fall in the Big Ten? Are we now over it? Because I don't know how. I know Harbaugh said they could play in 2 weeks, and
well, there's a few things that happened. First off, there was a protest against the president of the University of Michigan. Jim Harbaugh took part in the protest. Now, I understand it's 2020 and, the times that we're in right now, we're accepting of things that didn't used to be the norm. But I just want to say it out loud again slowly. The football coach took part in a protest protesting the actions of the president of the university of which he is the coach for. I don't ever remember that happening about anything. Maybe civil rights in the 60s. I don't know. But Mark, I can't recall anything in the last 45, 50 years in which this took place, that the football coach is this publicly against the will and the actions of the president of the university of which he is the coach for. That's number one. Number two, this whole discovery thing. There's two things that really freak people out. Do an FOI, do a freedom of information search in which you can get a hold of like phone records and emails and what have you. That freaks people in the state of Florida out. And discovery, because now all of a sudden, all the emails become available. And apparently by Saturday, the Big Ten has to comply with this lawsuit from a couple of weeks ago in which they've got to show why it is they did what they did. And they said when trying to prevent discovery, we can't have discovery. Why? This would not be good for us. I mean, that's what they said. And the judge is like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of the purpose of discovery. Well, that deadline is Saturday.
By the way, over the weekend, the president did tweet that Big Ten football is looking really good, but may lose Michigan, Illinois, and Maryland because the governor's blah, blah, blah.
Well,
I mean, just so you're aware, but these stories are running in the Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press.
Right.
I mean, this isn't, on a Fox News channel somewhere. This is what people in that state, who I was reading, Colton Pouncey writes for The Athletic about Michigan State. I just happened to look yesterday. Yes, I'm an alum, and I'm starting to pay a little bit of attention again. And he just said what I'm going to miss. And it was a cool article that kind of described what his day was. And he said he took the job a couple of years ago, and he goes, I moved really close to campus. And he just talked about the Saturday vibe. And I think we all know what that is on any college campus. And on any college campus and on any given day, someone's dressed in team colors, wearing the flag everywhere they go. It's just the way that it is. And that's how people are in these cities. And they're honked. And they're getting more honked every day. And trust me, when Notre Dame plays on Saturday, screw Bama in Florida, in Georgia. Don't even bother me with this SEC crap, okay? We get it. You're a big boy conference, and you're really, really good. But see, Notre Dame is in Big Ten country.
Yep.
And when they started doing if you looked at, you may have saw the maps of who your favorite team is now because of all the Pac-12 teams gone. BYU is like the only team that people follow on the West Coast now because everybody else is not playing football. No Boise, no Mountain West, no Pac-12. Well, throughout Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, the number one team now is Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that sits in Ann Arbor?
How do you think it sits all throughout the Big Ten?
But I say particularly in Ann Arbor.
Right.
Where it looks as if if the Big Ten starts playing football tomorrow, Ohio State would be playing. Nobody knows whether or not Michigan would. So while in Columbus they're pissed about Notre Dame, they're still thinking there's some sort of a chance. Every minute that goes by in Michigan, they're thinking there's less and less of a chance.
But I would argue that every minute that goes by, I think the Big Ten is closer to playing football. It's just a matter of when. Mark, the discovery deadline of Saturday, I think, is one thing that works in favor of Big Ten football happening sooner rather than later, because I really believe that the conference is going to not want to get to that moment. But here's the second one. Let's just say Saturday comes and goes. Mark, this weekend, ACC and Big 12 play. Big 12 is going to play on Fox. All those time slots would have been Big Ten slots.
Oh, yeah.
And instead, they're all going to the Big 12. That's going to ring home. And we're going to have the NFL this weekend also. Think of what the phone lines and the emails and everything's going to be like next week. Honestly, you're a university president. Right now, you're a no on Big Ten football. All but the SEC will have played this coming weekend, and the National Football League will have played. Next week's going to be a really rough week. And if by chance we get to the end of the month and the SEC kicks off on time and all that, now the deadline is on. See, it makes no sense to play starting around Thanksgiving. It makes no sense because
you've missed the tournament.
You've missed the playoff. Nobody can win the Heisman. You miss the playoff. The Rose Bowl is going to have a national semifinal without you. So it makes no sense. You're either playing in the fall for the playoff or you're not playing at all. You might as well have it in January. Mark, I think they can start as late as the third week of October. Because then they can, remember, there's 5 Saturdays in October. So they could play 3 in October, 4 in November, the first 2 of December. They can push the Big Ten title game back to when the SEC has it on the 19th. That gives them 9 weeks to play, in theory, 8 games. Play the 6 on your side, 2 crossovers. Figure it out. Jim Harbaugh said 2 weeks. And Mark, I don't think he's wrong. These teams are still practicing.
Oh, I know. Not
Ohio
as many
State
as they were going to be allowed to, but they're still practicing.
Ohio State was in pads last week. They're ready to go. You say it. They will be ready to go.
But you better hurry up because Justin Fields is about to opt out, and all these players are going to get drafted like the lineman at Oregon. I mean, come on. You're leaving. You're going to get ready for camp. By the way, just to further your point about this weekend with the NFL, David, Lions play Bears.
Right.
Packers play Vikings.
Exactly.
The Browns play the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
For the Browns, it's the biggest effing game on their schedule.
Right. For the obvious reason now.
And the Bengals open up at home. So,
right.
I mean, the Steelers don't play till Monday night, so the Penn State fan can't get really pissed off until Tuesday, maybe. But you know the point that I'm making here.
Oh, I know it.
Places where there's no football, on Sunday, all their teams are playing and all playing in relatively big games. Interdivision games.
Right.
Rivalry games.
Huge rivalry games.
Saturday's supposed to be around there. And oh, yeah, Notre Dame's playing Duke.
What Steve Deese also reported is that the president of the University of Michigan saying, well, if you play, you're going to play without us, which means no Michigan-Ohio State game. Now, Mark, you're from those neck of the woods. All right. And we all know, and we could argue whatever game you think is the single best game year in, year out in college football. I'll always say Army-Navy. But I honestly think most people, if you voted nationwide, best rivalry, I think Michigan-Ohio State would win. I do. I know the Iron Bowl's had some great games lately in the whole deal, but I actually think nationwide, Michigan-Ohio State would win. It'd be close.
I know it would win. It's not, no offense, it's not close nationally. You know why? Because Michigan's got more alumni than any school in the world.
But here's, to me, interesting, Mark. If you're the president of Michigan, and, you know, self-evaluation sometimes is very important. Do you think Ohio State would go along with you? Do you think the University of Michigan president, according to Steve Deese, is banking on the fact that the Big Ten won't play if they can't have the Michigan-Ohio State game. That's the centerpiece of Big Ten football. We're not going to play a season without the game. I said to Steve, when I talked to him on Sunday, I said, Steve, if I'm Ohio State, I'm playing the season without Michigan. Okay? Further separate myself from them.
It's a canyon between the two of you right now. It'll be an ocean by the time a season happens when you play and the Wolverines don't.
And do you really think the rest of the conference is going to go, well, if we don't have the Ohio State-Michigan game, we really can't have a season. It's not a real season.
Right. Row the boat's going to say, yeah, we're not playing. Bull. Couldn't line up fast enough to start recruiting against Michigan. That's what's going on right now.
And what are the teams that supposedly can't play? It'd be Michigan, Illinois, Maryland?
Maryland, Illinois, and Michigan. So,
by the way, why can Michigan State play if Michigan
Michigan State can't play either.
Okay, so 4 teams are out. Okay.
No, I think that's 5 because Northwestern rather is in Illinois.
Oh, that's right. So we lose
now,
5
they're a private school, so I don't know how that works.
Okay.
But for sure you've got 4, David.
Well, think of it then. Well, 5 if you count. So Maryland, 2 in Illinois, 2 in Michigan. 5 of the 4 teams.
Northwestern, it's 5.
Okay. Well, if on the Big Ten, this is real easy then. Well, hell, then we have a 9 school season this year. Everybody plays everybody.
Perfect.
Now, it's a little awkward because then first and second place teams who have already played meet in the Big Ten title game. But you have that sometimes where the teams in the East and West have played during the year and now they're going to play again. So, whatever. Now, we'll see. There have been a lot of people reporting a lot of things. And the one thing that has not happened, unless, Mark, you have found something, and I've been searching every day for it. Reportedly, the vote was 11-3. Iowa, Nebraska, and Ohio State's presidents voted to play. The other 11 have not. I have not seen one of those 11 publicly say they would change their vote. Let's revote. Hey, things are different now. We may need to rethink this. I have not seen or heard that from any of those 11.
And in fact, you look at Michigan's presidents doubled down. Penn State's presidents doubled down.
Purdue's presidents
I'm sorry, not Penn State. Purdue's presidents doubled down. Michigan State's president's brand new. I don't know if you're aware of this Nassar situation, but right now a president at Michigan State, I don't think can do anything where there's a chance of putting an athlete in harm's way. I just don't think they can in their current situation. Especially with a guy who's been there for an hour and a half.
Although the president of Ohio State voted when she wasn't even yet the president. And
yes, you know what she voted for? Football.
Right, because she was smart.
Because she's the president of where? Ohio State.
Ohio State, right. Realized I'm not going to keep this job if I vote the other way. And that's the other thing that's going on here is when I said earlier, university presidents are not used to getting public grief. In fact, they usually can go 10 years on the job without most alums at the university knowing their name. Never mind people publicly searching for their email addresses and the phone numbers to be able to harass them and tell them how wrong they are about something. And the networks came out with their TV schedules right before the holiday weekend. They said basically the Big Ten and Pac-12. Exactly. Sorry, guys, couldn't wait for you any longer. Here's another thing which is fascinating. The Pac-12 right before the holiday weekend says we've come up with this new 15-minute test. And we think we now might be able to play sports before January 1st. And we might be able. Now, they're not talking about playing football in mid-October, but they did. Larry Scott did hint at, we might be able to start playing around Thanksgiving. Now, he said, I would love to work with the Big Ten. I would love for us to do it in the same time frame. And they have many of the same TV partners. So that would be interesting. But the Big Ten's fan base does not want to wait for the Pac-12's timetable. But also now, Mark, think about it. The commissioner of the Pac-12 and half of the presidents of the university, or of the Pac-12, are on the record right now as willing to start their football season before the Big Ten right now is willing to start their football season.
Crazy. Couple of things, by the way, this hour is for you guys, really for the Twitch listeners. So fire off any questions you do. I'm not going to say we're going to derail what we're doing, but we'll try to answer all of them. I've seen some questions earlier. I play whatever songs are easy on the guitar. Based on David's picture hanging behind him. A couple of questions that I have for David. Right now, if I told you to get a hammer and a nail and put that up, would you be able to locate a hammer and a nail in your house?
Hammer, yes.
Whoops.
Okay.
Leave the picture down. Don't hurt yourself.
Hammer, yes. Don't think I have something strong enough. This is pretty heavy.
Do you have a stud finder in your house? And by the way, Johnny Mac says that's a tool, not a website. I thought that was a pretty good line.
Hello.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Do I have a stud finder? Don't have to look far for one, Johnny. Oh. My wife's going, yeah, we haven't had a stud finder in the house in over 20 years. But
and that was her when she was younger and healthier.
So, yes, I will get it hung up. I promise. I said I was going to do it, though, by this weekend, so my bad. I've straightened up the whole rest of the room, too. I really have. I've cleaned everything out, given stuff away, the whole deal. My bad.
Good to know. That's good to know.
My bad. By the way, treating this as if, first off, Saints and Kamara finalizing a deal. That's number one. Number two, coming up at the top of the hour in 6 minutes here on the Landry Football Network, which we're simulcast on, not just the Miller and Moulton Twitch channel. On the Landry Football Network, Chris Landry, Neil McCready to talk SEC West. They will break it down and make their predictions. That's coming up in 6 minutes on the Landry Football Network.
By the way, there was I thought I saw another game get delayed. The Oklahoma State Tulsa game has been postponed a week. That came out right at the end of the last hour. So that's now the TCU game has been postponed. The Tulsa-Oklahoma State game is being postponed. I think that'll be probably the biggest things that we keep track of here.
Well, there was one total, if you will, on Saturday. Tennessee, 44. That their head coach said, yeah, we got 44 guys out for practice. So the first assumption was we got 44 positive tests. Apparently, they had 8. They have 8 positive cases right now on the Tennessee football team. They held out 36 other players because of contact tracing. And they're waiting to see. But this is what we've talked about. And this is where the president of the University of Michigan may end up being right. He may end up being right. My mom's a nurse. She's been texting me all throughout. The president of the University of Michigan's right.
Why does he want to come on the show and make these statements to all of us? It's all we've asked for, Mom Moulton. This is the type of stuff that we need, an expert in the field.
And if you're the president of the University of Michigan and or any of the other 10 presidents who voted against playing football this year, the Tennessee case interests you. Before that, it was Auburn a week ago, in which they didn't practice for 2 days because they had a little bit of an outbreak. So this does bear watching. But yeah, is Miami still scheduled to play UAB on Thursday?
Yes.
Notre Dame's going to play this weekend. Fox is going to have college football all over its network on Saturday. And the NFL's going to play Thursday, Saturday, or it's Thursday, Sunday in a doubleheader Monday. Doubleheader on Monday. And one of the teams involved in the doubleheader is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The pressure by this time next week on the Big Ten presidents with the discovery in the lawsuit due by Saturday. Mark, I will be amazed if a week from today we're not doing a show in which word out of the Big Ten is they're scheduling a vote. Because now, reportedly, the commissioner is in favor of at least reconsidering whether or not to somehow play in the fall.
All right. There you have it. Bonus hour number 1 is in the books. I think you guys should all be making over-under bets for how long we do this.
Football season. All right. Although, as someone suggested in our twitch.tv chat room, we need to monetize this hour.
Very quickly. Or we'll be doing 3 hours a lot sooner than you think.
Right.
A lot sooner than you think, David.
Although, for the record, this idea was Mark Miller's. First time ever. First time since I've known him, he has advocated working on spec.
I have faith in the Landry Football Network. They're doing the SC Chic coming up next. Chuck Oliver's on at noon. Hey, we thank you guys for joining us for our extra hour. We'll dump off so they can set up and do their thing and make sure everything works out the right way. And we'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., Fox Sports Radio. The bonus hour on Twitch is official, David. Tomorrow, the guitar and maybe a hung picture. That's all I'm telling you.
Unbelievable. Rick Neuheisel, all right, and a hung picture.
Adios, everybody.